Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. Today, I don't really got much of an intro for you guys, so I just want to shout out the person who commissioned this video. You know who you are, bro. And let you guys know to show as much support as you can for this one. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, hype the video up, you know, all that good stuff. But yeah, no further ado, enjoy this 2-hour banger.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
In the original story of Naruto, we see a young boy grow up as lonely and as just bad as humanly possible, with absolutely zero friends. So today, I figured I would change that by giving Naruto the only friend he'll have, which is going to be a little bit weird because that friend just so happens to kill his parents. So, how do I intro this? Oh yeah, welcome to What If Naruto Befriended Kurama. Not gonna lie, don't feel like editing this intro, so it's probably just gonna be all gameplay for this entire 2-hour video or like 1 hour and something minute video. Still not entirely sure how long I want this one to be, but I do know one thing. This is gonna be completely unscripted, unfiltered, and I just want to figure out how the heck I write this one without actually writing it. So let's begin. This entire story is all gonna start off the day that Hiruzen would tell Naruto that, well, you're on your own, buddy. And as Naruto would be sitting in the room, you know, all by himself, having nobody there for him, Naruto would decide that maybe he'll go out and find some friends. And he would do just that, going out, you know, trying to see if he could hang out with some of the kids. But predictably, all of them would end up pretty much calling him names, actually hitting him, and pretty much chasing Naruto off with a couple of sticks. They would be playing Catch the Demon Fox, which is just really weird. But as Naruto would leave that area and he would pretty much find himself crying into the corner of his room, he would just sit there wondering why. Like, genuinely, why was he in this situation? Why were his parents gone? Why did he have no friends? And then, suddenly Naruto would decide that he's gonna figure this out. If Hiruzen doesn't want to tell him, then he'll find someone who will. From here, Naruto would make his way towards the same villagers that would look at him with disgust and just straight up ask them, why does everyone hate me? Some villagers would tell him to get lost, get out of here, practically kick him away. And after bothering, who knows, like 40 villagers, finally, one of them would tell him, because you're the demon fox, kid. Don't you get it? You're harboring that damn tailed beast that took away my son. Now get out of here. Pushing Naruto to the ground on some legendary "because you're black" performance as Naruto would hit the ground and I'm sorry, y'all. Not gonna lie, that was a little uncalled for. But continuing forth with the story, after Naruto would end up discovering that he has the tailed beast inside of him, Naruto would walk away with confusion. Honestly, having more questions than answers now. So with this question at the back of his head, Naruto would seemingly just wait 4 more days until Hiruzen would come and do his usual checkup. And once Hiruzen was there, Naruto would straight up just ask the question, do I have a tailed beast inside me? This is when Hiruzen would have a bit of a stunned expression, asking who told him that, which would almost confirm Naruto's suspicions. Hiruzen telling him that he doesn't, and he doesn't know where he heard that from, but he should tell him. And Naruto would look at him and tell him that it was a villager who told them, not really specifying who it was as much as Hiruzen tried to figure it out, with Naruto asking why he couldn't just tell him the truth, with Hiruzen getting down to eye level and telling Naruto that he thought he'd be better off without knowing it. Naruto kind of just starting to bawl his eyes out as Hiruzen would feel bad, like kind of looking away but looking at Naruto and being like, damn, I messed up, Minato. This is when Hiruzen would go on to explain to him the truth. At least some of it. He would go on to tell him that on the night of the Nine Tails incident, the 4th Hokage had no choice but to seal the Nine Tails within a vessel. And since Naruto was one of the only ones capable of actually withholding it, being from the Uzumaki clan, Minato had to make a difficult decision, one that cost him his life, saying that Naruto is a hero in the village, but that these people aren't ready to understand that, and that they're still grieving from their losses, explaining that every time that they look at him, those people can't help but think about the people they lost. Naruto saying that he lost people too. His mom and dad died that night too. But Hiruzen would tell him that they don't think about that. They just think about themselves, saying that It's hard for him to understand now, but it's human nature. And as Naruto would sit there kind of just accepting what Hiruzen told them, Naruto would ask him one question. What's his name? This is when Hiruzen would say, the Nine Tails, while he would exit the room, leaving the house with a loud thud from the door. It's here that Naruto would sit down in the chair and realize that at least now he has answers. Things aren't better, but he knows, right? And Naruto will just have to make do with that. 2 years would pass, and now Naruto would find himself at the age of 6.5. And with Naruto being a little older now and more understanding of why people view him in the light that they do, Naruto wouldn't seek attention. In fact, Naruto would actually want to do the opposite. If Naruto was a thing of pain to other people, then he just wouldn't really bother people. Every time Naruto would go out, he would go out in low-key clothing as to not trigger people's pain. Because Naruto knows how it feels to feel hurt. I mean, he feels that every damn night. So much so that he's had to promise himself to stop crying, which would be the exact reason that Naruto would want to almost act as if he's disappeared. Naruto would spend most of his time in a library, learning as much as he can about the tailed beasts and what those even do, how they operate, and if Naruto can maybe speak to them one day. But the information on it would be very just minimal. Whenever he would find something, he would look in other books that would have a little bit of information, and via skimming them, he would pretty much find the same information, just rephrased, which ultimately leaves Naruto to borderline giving up until eventually, making his way towards one of the oldest books in the actual library, Naruto would be stopped by the receptionist, who would go on to tell Naruto that that's too advanced, and no kid should be a hold of that. That's only for ninjas, she would say, scoffing at him, realizing that that's Naruto, seeing the whiskers of the boy responsible for the Nine Tails massacre. This is when Naruto would nod, apologizing as he would leave, before then sneaking back in and snagging the book. He would make his way home and read the book all freaking day and night. Naruto literally would get no sleep that day. But through doing so, Naruto would have gotten like 60 pages into the book. And that was perfect, because just then was when Naruto would figure out the information he was searching for, discovering more information about how the actual Jinchuriki system works, how different people can be affected by it, how there's actually been times where a Jinchuriki's been used in times of war. Naruto would read up on the situation with Rin to his surprise, and Naruto would discover the name of the previous holder of the Jinchuriki, Kushina Uzumaki, which would lead to Naruto's heart stopping for a second, because even though he knows he's never met this woman, a part of him was just telling him that he knows her, and better than he thinks. This is when Naruto would actually start tearing up on the pages, but before he would know it, suddenly Naruto would pass out, and the book that he was reading from under him was now gone. It was Kakashi, who would drop by in the night after the discovery of the book had gone missing, and the librarian would have noted it was Naruto. Kakashi would have gone to retrieve it. However, wanting Naruto to discover said information, he would give him a bit more time to at least find out who his mother was, and a bit more of the information he was searching for. Kakashi would understand. The boy's probably lonely and looking for answers, so he'll give him that at least. And so when Naruto would wake up the following day, Naruto would smile knowing that whatever happened, it happened for a reason, noting that that book was gone. From that point forth, Naruto would write down that name Kushina Uzumaki on one of the cabinets, and Naruto would smile every time that he would see it, thinking to himself that even though he's not sure if it's his mom, part of him just tells him it is. Naruto would now think, who's my dad? As he would make his way to the one place that always brought him comfort, the fourth Hokage statue. As Naruto would sit atop of it, Naruto would wonder who his dad was, not knowing that he was closer to a piece of his father than even his own skin. It's here that as Naruto would overlook the village, Naruto would wonder why it was that in a village filled with so many people, he was all alone. Not a single friend, not a single person he could call upon. Sure, he had stopped talking to people, but it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because they didn't want him. So as Naruto would watch the village, streams of tears would begin pouring down his face. And as Naruto would overlook, Naruto would suddenly wonder when he would finally have a friend. Just one. And suddenly, Naruto would remember that beast trapped inside of him. If people couldn't be his friend, then maybe this thing could. Naruto would start screaming out, "Nine Tails! Nine Tails!" Ninetales, I know you can hear me, and I know you're somewhere inside of me just as alone as I am. Why not talk to each other? But nothing. And as Naruto would continue to hear nothing and nothing and nothing over and over and over again, Naruto would slump back down on the Hokage monument, just thinking to himself, how much longer is he gonna have to deal with this? How many more years of silence? How many more times is he gonna have to walk in the house knowing no one's gonna call out for him, asking him how his day was? How many more times is he gonna be ridiculed and pushed aside because of something he didn't choose? And as Naruto would think about these thoughts, Naruto would overlook the drop. As Naruto would think, if I just did this, I could be with them. And so, Naruto would take a leap. He would jump straight off of the Hokage monument. And in that moment, as the emotions and all of the fears of Naruto would slowly dwindle away, Naruto would find himself in a different domain, inside of his mindscape, where the Ninetales would be standing inside of a large red gate. It's here that Naruto would ask the Ninetales what his name is. The Ninetales staring at him, growling, telling him that he's a fool. He just killed them both. All the while Naruto would look at the Ninetales and ask one more time, what's your name? Naruto would say, Kurama, snarling as he would pretty much threaten to kill him. All the while Naruto wouldn't even move a muscle. He would only watch the large figure of the Ninetales, which in that moment Naruto would think was majestic, only for him to snap back into reality as he would look up at a silver-haired man wearing an Anbu mask. Naruto would just had his life saved, and though Naruto didn't choose this outcome, he's honestly glad it happened. Naruto would look up questioning why he saved him, with the Anbu member telling him that he had to, answering no further questions, all the while Naruto would be taken to the third Hokage's office. Once there, Kakashi would explain the situation, and after a bit of questioning from Hiruzen asking him why he did that, and Naruto would go on to just tell him everything without tears, just facts, Hiruzen would be left dumbfounded and silent, telling Naruto that he can go back home, but letting him know that he'll be under surveillance 24 hours from now on, as Naruto would smile and say, at least someone will be there, walking out of the room. It's here that Hiruzen would sit there in just dumb silence, as he would practically look up into the sky and ask Minato for forgiveness. In this moment, Hiruzen would start to wonder what he can do to help Naruto. But the more he would think, the less ideas would come up to his mind, until eventually Hiruzen would decide that in one last ditch effort, maybe knowing who his parents were would potentially lead Naruto to double thinking this. And so, Hiruzen would sip on his coffee as he would take a hit of his pipe, and from there, we would transition to seeing Naruto inside of his house, smiling at the fact that he had gotten to meet that tailed beast that was inside of him. And in this moment, Naruto would begin calling out for the Ninetales. Ninetales, Naruto would say, Ninetales, why can't I talk to you anymore? He would ask, wondering if that near-death experience had something to do with it. So Naruto would rush to his kitchen, grabbing a kunai, as Naruto would think to himself that if this is the way he's gonna talk to Kurama, then so be it, attempting to slash at himself before suddenly Kakashi would arrive, helping Naruto, telling him to stop. It's here that Kakashi, turning to Naruto, would ask him why he's so desperate to speak to the Ninetales, to which Naruto would tell him that he just wants a friend. It's here that Kakashi would look back at Naruto before breaking the rules of his contract, just sitting there with Naruto, hanging out with him, talking to him, telling him about some of the missions that he's gone on, some of the places in the world that he's gotten to see, all the cool jutsus he can use, and even performing a couple in front of him. And as the day would come and go, Naruto would find himself that for the first time in years, he had spent a day laughing, smiling, and conversing with someone who, though was forced because they probably thought he would try it again, he was there. So Naruto, finding himself exhausted, would finally go to the bed, asking the man if he would mind doing this at least once a month, to which Kakashi would nod, telling him that he can make that happen. It's here that as Naruto would go to sleep, Naruto would practically start counting the days until that would happen. As about 2 weeks into it, Naruto would find himself going to sleep and waking up once again inside of the chamber which would hold the Ninetales. And as Naruto would look, he would see those same murderous eyes of the tailed beast that would be trying to claw at him and rip him apart. But Naruto once again would show no fear, just sitting down and staring at the Ninetales, which would finally cause it to stop, asking him why he's not afraid, to which Naruto would respond by telling him that He has no reason to be afraid. He's gotten used to that look, so why should his reaction be different whether it's the Nine-Tails or a villager? After all, both want to kill him, but don't. This is when, after a long pause, Naruto would ask why he hasn't truly killed him yet, since he was more than within range of Kurama. And Kurama would tell him that he can't kill his host, or else he'd be killing himself with him. To which Naruto would smile, saying that it looks like they're stuck with each other, looking at Kurama and asking him once again, "What's your name?" This is when Kurama, staring at the direction of Naruto, would growl before saying, "My name is Kurama," which would cause Naruto to light up like a beam and say, "Wait, really? That's your name? That's so cool. Did you give it to yourself or did somebody name you?" To which Kurama would tell him that he's done answering questions, making his way towards a distant area of the cage and sitting down as he would close his eyes, completely ignoring Naruto, just wondering to himself why in the world he would answer that first question in the first place. He's not a babysitter. He's destruction incarnate, the Nine-Tails, the most powerful of them all. And yet this child, he would open his eye, is not afraid of me. As Kurama would close his eyes, he would think back to the old man who had created him, thinking that this young boy and him are a bit similar. This is when, after finally ignoring Naruto long enough, Naruto would wake up, and to Naruto's surprise, he would find Kakashi waiting for him. This is when Naruto would ask how long he's been there, as Kakashi would say that, well, he's there always, but here about 5 minutes. This is when Naruto would go on to say that if today's that day, as Kakashi would nod, and Naruto would pull out a board game, playing with Kakashi for a few minutes, until eventually Naruto, looking to Kakashi, would end up asking him a question. "Hey, since you know all these jutsu, do you think it would be hard for me to learn one? Maybe you could teach me how to use a jutsu, even if it's a simple one. What do you think?" Kakashi at first would feel a bit strange because, it's a kid and he probably won't figure it out anyways, but he's not sure that's a good idea. But ultimately, deciding that Naruto probably won't be able to figure it out anyways, Kakashi would say, "Sure, I'll teach you the basics of one," as he would go on to show Naruto the hand signs for the clone jutsu. And as soon as Naruto would try it, Kakashi would take note of one thing: Naruto's insanely massive chakra reserves, and the fact that it seemed like Naruto was pouring out way too much chakra in order to use a jutsu that just straight up didn't require that much. So, Kakashi not telling Naruto the true reason as to why he couldn't wield the jutsu, he would end up telling him that he's made some pretty good progress, explaining that kids of his age typically take a bit longer. Oh, and by the way, quick retcon, I just realized that Naruto would have already started the academy if he was 6 years old, so instead of a 2-year time skip where Naruto was growing up, it's a 1-year time skip. So Naruto is 5.5 at this point in the story. Anyways, continuing forth, after the day of training Naruto would have had with Kakashi, their little activities would continue on like this, with Naruto mastering 3 jutsus by the time that Naruto would need to enter the academy, because due to the fact that Kakashi would show him the basics, and then Naruto would practically spend months if not weeks trying to figure out how to perfect the jutsu, Naruto, by the end of those 3 months that he would finally spend with Kakashi until he would enter the academy, he would have learned 3 jutsus, and the 3 would consist of the clone jutsu, the transformation jutsu, and the substitution jutsu. A bunch of different abilities that Naruto unknowingly would be refining his chakra control via doing so, learning not to pour as much of it, as he would dedicate most of his time into training and trying to communicate with Kurama, which most of the time wouldn't work. If I'm being honest, Naruto would only have one more slight encounter with Kurama, in which case Naruto would have pretty much just have been ignored the entire time, all the while Naruto would ask Kurama questions about why he ended up being in the Leaf Village in the first place, asking what the origin of tailed beasts were, and a bunch of questions that honestly just annoyed Kurama, because they brought back things that he would rather not think about. So he would always growl at Naruto and tell him to get lost, which ultimately lead to more and more time passing when Naruto would finally find himself attending the academy for the first day. Once there, Naruto would meet a bunch of new different students, and seeing as Naruto had practically disappeared from the village altogether during these last 2 years, many of his classmates would hardly recognize him, leading Naruto to walk up to the front of the class where he would proudly announce that his name was Naruto Uzumaki, which would lead some people to be like, okay, cool, and others to be like, wait, isn't that the name of as the connections would finally all click in their head, and they would understand that this was the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki, immediately changing the class's perception about Naruto, as Iruka would go on to ask Naruto what his goals are and his dreams are, which Naruto would go on to say that his goal is to one day become a respected member of the village, and that his dream was to have as many friends as possible, going on to tell the class that if any of them have a problem with him, that he promises to stay out of their way, simply just bowing before making his way towards his seat. This would leave some people with a bit of a weird taste in their mouth, because some would be like, damn, that kid, he's nice. And then other people would be like, he's so respectful and kind. And then others would be like, did you hear that? He's gonna stay out of my way and his dream is to have friends? What a loser, Kiba would say. Going over to Naruto as he would say, so, is all that true about you being the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki? With Naruto looking at him and saying, yeah, I've got the markings to prove it here. He lifting up his shirt as he would showcase the markings of the seal of the Nine-Tails. This would shock the class as they would stare at it, and Kiba would laugh, saying, oh yeah, well what's its name? To which Naruto would say, well I can't tell you that, only his friends are allowed to know. Stunning the class, which would ask, wait, if you know his name, doesn't that mean that you're friends with that thing? The thing that killed so many of our people and destroyed our village? Leaving Naruto to say that he is, without wavering for a second. Looks of disgust would come back, and as everybody would walk away from Naruto, Naruto would choose to stay silent and not give out the name that Kiba was asking for so much. Ultimately, after a few minutes would pass and Iruka would finally calm the class down, Iruka would go on to tell them all that today they're going to be participating in a very special activity, telling them that they're going to be showcasing just how strong they are and fast they are and capable as ninjas, showing them a bit of an obstacle course in which they have a few targets that they have to hit, with Naruto looking at them and thinking that this is going to be so cool. This is when making his way towards the front of the class to try to take the test, one of the kids would stick their foot out in front of Naruto, tripping him. Naruto looking up and smiling, saying, sorry I got in your way. As making his way towards the front, Naruto would use the little bits and tidbits of training that he's learned from Kakashi, as he would apply some of the principles of chakra manipulation into his legs and arms, which ultimately caused Naruto to go faster than anybody would expect. Not fast enough to break any records or anything, but fast enough to be at the top of the classroom, which would stun everybody, leading the class all to simultaneously agree that it must be that damn demon inside of him that's giving him all the strength. With everybody staring, all the while Sakura would say that they shouldn't even be part of the same classroom as a murderer. Them all walking away as Naruto would sit there and just kind of take it, feeling like he wanted to cry but just refusing to do so, seeing as he made a promise to himself. This is when Naruto, sitting back at the class, would then go on to be called upon lastly by Iruka, who would ask if any of them know what jutsus are and if they know any, with Naruto being one of the only few people to actually answer alongside Sasuke Uchiha, who would make his way to the front of the class and showcase a very weak version of the fire style jutsu. Naruto finding that incredible, as making his way there next, Naruto would go on to create 3 clones of himself, stunning Iruka, who would say, wait, he's already capable of creating the clones required to pass this course? Wondering just how much stuff Naruto can do, and beginning to think about whether that Nine-Tails truly is giving him powers, starting to fall into the same line of thinking as his own students, although while Naruto would smile at everybody and they would just glare at him, leaving Naruto to make his way home, where once there, Naruto would go on to call on the name of Kurama. Kurama! Kurama! Talk to me, Kurama! But nothing. And then just as Naruto was about to give up, Naruto would find himself within the cage of Kurama. With Naruto seeing the big cat he had wanted to see, Naruto would smile, sitting back down in front of Kurama's cage, as Naruto would ask him how his day's been, Kurama growling at that stupid question, with Naruto saying, yeah right, sorry, before then going, what about my other question? How did you get created? I can't imagine you were just a little fox and ate your way to becoming that massive. Kurama would hear that as, part of him would want to scoff and want to reply, but before doing so, Kurama would have a question of his own, looking to Naruto and asking, why didn't you tell those kids my name? You could have made one up and they would have believed you, and to top it all off, you didn't have to say I was your friend. Which Naruto would pretty much pause, saying that he might not be Kurama's friend, but Kurama's his friend, going on to say that he's the only person who will sit there and listen to him babble on for hours and not do anything. Kurama thinking that it's only because he can't do anything. If he was just a random kid, he probably would have torn him to shreds, maybe even hit him with a tailed beast bomb just to send a message. But oh well. As he would hear the reply of Naruto, He would then hear him go on to explain why he said he was his friend, and why he didn't back down from that or make a fake name up, as Naruto would look to Kurama and say, because I'm not a liar. From here, he would pretty much lay down in that like little funky water that would be inside of the cage, as Naruto would go on to ask Kurama why he ended up being in said village. What's his story? Kurama in this moment would simply stare at Naruto as silence would fill the room for like what felt like an hour, until eventually Kurama, willing to tell Naruto the truth, would then end up telling Naruto how he was created, telling him a simplified version of the Sage of the Six Paths, how he had split up a being known as the Ten Tails, and now he happened to be an amalgamation of it. He's actually a large part of the chakra that formed that thing. And with Naruto sitting there completely dumbfounded, unknowing like what the heck he's even going on about, Naruto would be like, okay, that's a cool story. Being like, how did you make it to the Leaf Village though? To which Kurama would growl and be like, it was that bastard Hashirama. He captured me using his wood-style jutsu and I couldn't do a thing about it. Then Madara had the gall to use me against him and lost. What a pathetic shinobi. Had he used my powers correctly, he would have destroyed the first Hokage and maybe I would have been set free. But that didn't happen. And then your father came around and sealed me inside of you, leaving me to spend the last couple of years of my life watching your pathetic existence. With Naruto simply staring at Kurama and being like, I'm sorry. It's here that Naruto would go on to ask Kurama a question. Have you ever had friends, Kurama? With Kurama just kind of sitting there being like, no. He has brothers, but those don't count. And he has the Sage, but that's more of a father, less of a friend. Which leaves the Nine Tails to simply stare at Naruto, not with a growl and not with rage, but just sort of a look that would reflect Naruto's own expression and emotions. This is when Kurama, laying his head back down, would close his eyes, as Naruto would say, I'll take that as a no. Well, I don't mean to put you in a weird spot, but I mean, you're my friend. Why can't I be yours? I mean, sure, you're trapped inside my body and we really don't have a choice, but isn't that how the best of friendships get formed? Don't they typically tend to start off in a place where you wouldn't expect? This is maybe just that. Leaving Kurama to bark back and tell him that this isn't that situation. That he's responsible for the death of his mother and father, destruction of his village, and the reason he's hated. To call him a friend would be a fool's choice. Howling at the cage with all of his chakra pressure, as Naruto would end up waking back up in the real world, ready for his next day of school, which Naruto would go, attend, and pretty much be made fun of, a little bit of bullying, and would pretty much just be ignored, resulting in a little bit of a couple-week time skip in which Naruto would finally see Kakashi once again. Kakashi, entering his room, would tell him that this is actually going to be the last time they're going to be speaking, saying that since Naruto's in the academy, it's up to Naruto to make his first real friend. Naruto smiling as he would ask Kakashi one favor, Kakashi looking at him and saying that he'll do anything, so long as it's not too crazy, with Naruto telling him that he wants to learn how to do the fire style jutsu, leaving Kakashi to think about this for a second before then finally saying, Naruto, the jutsu that you're asking me to perform is an elemental jutsu, not to mention that it's a D to C rank technique. Leaving Naruto to look at Kakashi and saying that that's fine. After all, this is their last meeting, so as long as he can guide him towards the right direction, Naruto could use that, and maybe by the time that he's an incredible shinobi, he can show him just how good he's gotten at it. So Kakashi, smiling and patting Naruto on the head, would end up saying that he'll try, going on to tell him that he'll be right back, body flickering before appearing once again in about 20 minutes. This is when Naruto would say, that was fast, what did you go do? Leaving Kakashi to hold a piece of paper. He would hand it to Naruto and tell him, remember how I taught you to mold chakra for your jutsus? I want you to pour chakra into this piece of paper. Leaving Naruto to sit there struggling for a bit until eventually, pouring just enough chakra into the piece of paper, he would cause it to rip in multiple spots. As Kakashi would say, yup, just as I suspected, thinking in his head that he's just like his father Minato, going on to say that Naruto won't exactly be too proficient when it comes to fire style jutsu, but he'll teach him it just in case, and as an extra gift, He'll even teach him one more jutsu on top of that, as well as giving him a body routine workout that he can work on every day to make sure he's nice and strong. So Naruto leaping up and be like, wait, you're serious? You're giving me all that? You're the best! As Naruto would just be super excited, and ultimately Kakashi would walk him through the steps on how to use these two jutsus, telling Naruto first and foremost how to use the wind style, and leaving a little bit of like a little scroll in which he would write the basics of the fire style jutsu and the wind style jutsu, and then hand him another scroll that had different handwriting, leaving Naruto to ask who made this one. Kakashi telling him that he actually asked a friend to do this for him. That's why the handwriting's a little off. So Naruto reading through it and seeing all of the crazy exercises, because Mike Kai would have written it, Naruto would say to thank that guy one day, with Kakashi pretty much smiling, doing his usual, like one eye smile, as he would go on to tell him that one day when he's older, he'll make sure to thank him for him. As Naruto would end up smiling, and from here, Naruto would end up thanking Kakashi, him just body flickering out of there, as Naruto would simply whisper, "You're the best, Kakashi." Shocking Kakashi, who would have overheard the fact that Naruto knows his name. And the reason he would know this is because of Kurama, who actually would have told him due to the fact that Naruto during that time would have had a couple more encounters with Kurama. And as months and weeks pass, Naruto would have more and more and more and more encounters with Kurama, to the point where finally, Naruto would freely be able to make his way to the cage, I want to say about 1 to 2 times a week, depending on how much he's focusing. And he's able to pretty much talk to Kurama an entire night. They just conversate back and forth, and each of them really like it. Like, as much as Kurama hates to admit it, he's growing to really like Naruto. And Naruto's always really liked Kurama, just because, he's a friend that has to be his friend. So with that being said, Naruto would spend his days like that for the next year, spending time with Kurama, learning a couple of things about history, asking Kurama what it's like to have lived so long, all those questions like that, and then spend a whole lot of time doing his training, focusing a lot on that full body workout that my guy would have given him that, truth be told, would have been extremely difficult for Naruto to do at first, but due to the fact that he had nothing but time to get it done, Naruto eventually, after a few months of training, would get the basics of most of the movements and the exercise, starting very small and eventually working his way up to the goals of the 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 punches, 1,000 kicks, 1,000 laps around the village walking on his hands, and you get the point. He doesn't quite literally have the actual training list that Rock Lee has, but he does have punches, he has kicks, he has sit-ups, push-ups, stuff like that. Not the wall crawling, because Kakashi just scratched that out. It's a little insane. The kid is 6 years old. So yeah, with that being the case, Naruto would have ended up spending that entire year, and with that said, I believe Naruto would now be 7 years old, 7.5-ish, I want to say. So by the time that Naruto would make it to his next year in the academy, Naruto would have made a bit of a reputation for himself in the classroom. Not as the loudmouth kid that makes everybody laugh, but as that kid that stands out when it comes to ninjutsu training. Naruto's strong, he's fast, he's quiet, he's never in people's way, and whenever people try to bully him, he straight up doesn't sit there, cry, he just apologizes, and just leaves, which is so strange. But Naruto's quite literally gone so used to that type of harsh treatment that it just doesn't even bug him anymore. And so by the time that we would get to the time in the story where Naruto would finally start doing sparring and the actual activities that they would do in the class would ramp up a little bit, Naruto would be matched up against Sasuke Uchiha, one of the strongest people in his classroom, which would get Naruto psyched up, smiling at Sasuke, who would look back at him and kind of just acknowledge that if he wanted to fight anybody in this class to see how he stacks up, he's glad it was Naruto. Both boys would bow, as almost immediately the match would kickstart, and Naruto would close the distance between Sasuke and himself so fast that Sasuke would be stunned. Mind you, this is not like Jonin speed or anything like that, but it's fast in comparison to their age range, right? So Sasuke, being completely caught off guard by this, would then be punched square in the stomach, causing him to cough out a little bit as he would tumble on the ground and get back up, getting pretty angry as he just looks around at the shocked expressions of his classmates. This is when Naruto, stopping for a second, would be like, "Are you okay?" As Sasuke would be like, "Don't pity me," weaving the hand signs for his fire style jutsu, with Iruka being like, "Sasuke, no, you'll..." But before he could even do anything, Naruto would counter that exact jutsu with his very own fire style jutsu, both of them clashing as they would pretty much disperse, and they would be at around the same level due to the amount of practice that Naruto's been putting in. So though it's not his affinity, it's just enough to match Sasuke. After this display and Iruka and everybody in the class seeing that two students are capable of that level of a jutsu, he'd be shocked, stopping the match immediately, with Naruto going over towards Sasuke saying that he's incredible, that he can't believe that his fire style jutsu's gone that much stronger in such a short amount of time. Sasuke looking to Naruto and being unsure of how to feel, like, is he supposed to feel patronized? Like, is he supposed to be happy? Like, he's confused, right? But ultimately, Sasuke would extend a hand out and, pretty much accept Naruto. The two would talk for a bit, and from this point in the story, a bit of a mutual type of respect would form between Sasuke, which ultimately would lead to a lot of back and forth between Naruto and Sasuke over the years. Because yeah, Naruto gets to talk with Kurama, and Kurama, gives him a couple of tips and tricks about being a shinobi and his training and all that. But ultimately, Kurama is still, even though they are friends and even Naruto can tell they are, he's not willing to accept it fully. So even over the course of this entire time, Kurama has yet to give Naruto so many tips that Naruto's just like blatantly so much freaking stronger than Sasuke. But Naruto still would be stronger than Sasuke. He'd be very talented in his own niche areas. Mind you, when it comes to shuriken jutsu and kunai throwing, Naruto's a bit lacking in that department. But when it comes to physical strength and speed, Naruto is very strong, and he is just as fast as Sasuke by the time that he would have finished the Land of the Waves arc, which is pretty freaking fast. I mean, he was keeping up with Haku, right? Pretty impressive. So with that being the case, Naruto also has definitely developed a few more jutsus over the course of this time, which are all mostly E rank, and he's developed his clone jutsu as well as substitution jutsu, creating a strange jutsu on his own via an idea from Kurama of using his clones, right, his little like normal clones, and swapping places with them instead of logs. So say an attack's about to hit him, but Naruto has like 3 clones on a different part of the battlefield that aren't too far, Naruto could swap places with them, making the opponent think that they hit him. Meanwhile, it was really just a clone, and it poofs into smoke, leaving Naruto more than enough time to like weave hand sense for a wind bullet or a fire style jutsu or a gale palm jutsu and things of that nature, which ultimately leads to the day of graduation finally coming, with Naruto at this point having established a solid relationship with Kurama, which, like I said, the dude doesn't blatantly acknowledge that they're friends or even help him in battles, but Naruto knows that at the end of every day when he's just at home by himself, he can always talk to Kurama. And that would help Naruto cope with the loneliness that he would feel. Well, at least to this point, because now Naruto would finally be assigned to a team, and due to the fact that Naruto has more than the qualifications to actually become a genin, Naruto would pass without the hitch of the whole Mizuki situation, which means that that would either be handled by Hiruzen, Kakashi, or just a random ninja in the village that would catch him. There's no way in my mind that Mizuki actually escapes with the scroll, just due to the fact that Hiruzen actually knew where he was thanks to the crystal ball. So due to that, we kind of just jump cut to Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura being among some of the last in the classroom, with Naruto sitting adjacent to Sasuke and Sakura sitting right next to him being like, "Can you believe it, Sasuke? We're gonna be on the same team. This is gonna be so cool." Meanwhile, looking at Naruto and not necessarily being like, "Huh, Naruto's gonna be on my team," but just kind of like looking at him and being like, "Yeah, he's weird and he's the Nine Tails, but at least he's strong." That's the kind of outlook that she has on him, because she doesn't find him annoying in any sense. Naruto's never once crushed on her. In fact, in this timeline, I'd like to think Naruto would have actually crushed on Hinata, but due to the way that Naruto grew up in this timeline, I don't think that little encounter that happened in Naruto the Last, where Naruto saved Hinata, leading her to get a crush on him, would have happened. So if Naruto and Hinata were to maybe develop a relationship in the story, which I'm not going to focus on at all, maybe that's how it could happen. Like, it just happens naturally, right? But anyways, moving on. With Kakashi being told by Hiruzen what his team is like and being informed on the differences of Naruto this time, and actually, seeing what Naruto's apartment's like, Sakura's, and Sasuke's home life is like, Kakashi would think that this team actually has a lot of promise, wondering just how much stronger Naruto's gotten in all this time. Honestly, kind of excited to walk inside, because even though in this timeline Naruto never necessarily saw his face, he knew his name, name, and the hair color is just gonna give it away. So he's pretty happy to see that Naruto grew up, never tried, that thing that happened at the beginning of the story ever again, and he's gonna just see how he is. So walking inside, Kakashi would enter and see that Naruto was actually literally reading a book on shinobi history. Naruto kind of reading it and be like, what? That's not what happened. Kurama said this happened differently, because obviously the victors are the one who talk about history. And due to that, we would pretty much see Kakashi opening and being like, yo, as Naruto looks up and he's like, wait, Kakashi, is that you? Leaving Sasuke and Sakura to be like, whoa, that's the most we've ever seen Naruto talk, and be loud. He would basically run up on Kakashi, saying that he's so excited to be working under his team, saying that he's learned so much since the last time he taught him 2 jutsus, and saying that he's even been working on that body routine, being like, look, kind of like doing a little bit of a flex, with Kakashi smiling, saying that he's glad to hear it. This is when signaling over towards his other classmates, which would still be staring at Naruto, just like, wow, this is the first time we've seen him this lively. They would all make their way to the rooftop, where Kakashi would ask, okay, tell me a bit about yourselves. They all tell their goals, their dreams, their aspirations, and then we would have Kakashi basically telling them that tomorrow they're going to need to not eat and meet him at the training grounds, explaining that this is the real test that's going to determine whether they become genin or not. Leaving as he would body flicker away, and Naruto would simply sit there smiling, excited to show off to Kakashi. So for the remainder of that day, Naruto trains hard as ever, and even asks Kurama if he can tell him anything about Kakashi that could maybe help him during that fight. And Kurama would be like, fine, I'll tell you. As he would go on to pretty much explain to Naruto that Kakashi was actually on the team of his, before Naruto would stop him and say, actually, I don't want to know. I want to surprise him. I want to see if I can maybe showcase to Kakashi how cool I am by myself. Kurama kind of nodding, as Naruto would sit there formulating a bunch of hand signs, practicing getting quicker and quicker at them, saying, I can't wait for tomorrow. With morning finally coming, as Naruto would be there bright and early, actually an entire 20 minutes before the rest of the group would arrive. Sasuke arriving and kind of nodding to Naruto, as Naruto would do the same back, and when Sakura would arrive, she would kind of do like a little bit of a wave to Naruto, who would do a little one back, leaving Naruto to think to himself if maybe he should start treating them as friends. I mean, after all, they're gonna be stuck together as a 3-man squad for years to come, so maybe it won't be too much of a bad idea to break out of his shell a bit and talk. He would go over towards Sakura and ask how nervous she is for the little test they got going on, with her saying that honestly she doesn't really know how to feel. Internally she'd be like, "Cha, this is unfair, we already became genin," while on the outside she'd be like, "It's just so weird, we already passed the genin exam and all of a sudden we have to pass another one? It doesn't make any sense." Which Naruto would say that he understands, but maybe it's just Kakashi's way of running things, leaving her to say, "It seems like you knew him quite a bit. Why is that?" As Naruto turning towards her would be like, well, when I was a kid, I grew up alone, see, like you're probably aware, I'm the 9th Jinchuriki, so I didn't really have too many friends, but to make a long story short, he was basically my primary caretaker, because when I was young, I tried to commit seppuku. Leaving like a very, very long silence where Sakura would be like, "Oh," and Sasuke raising an eyebrow at this would be like, "Damn," like just internally, but not saying anything. He's probably just like, huh. Until eventually, more minutes would pass, and eventually once it would finally hit 8 o'clock, which is the time that Kakashi had set for them, nothing would happen. An hour would pass, 2 hours would pass, and eventually Naruto would just be like, "Bro, this is crazy. Like, Kakashi's never been this late before." Mind you, because this is the first time he's ever experienced Kakashi's tardiness. So when the man would finally arrive, Naruto, though excited to see him, would have that excitement just a bit tarnished. How excited are you going to be when someone pulls up that late? And this is when Naruto, though not trying to show it, it would be caught on by Kakashi, who would quickly explain the rules and pretty much get everything started. With the moment Kakashi would say, begin, everybody kind of just dispersing, with the exception of Naruto, who, having stood behind in an attempt to gauge how strong Kakashi is, being very much so cautious of him because he's aware of the little stories he's told him back when he was younger. Kakashi's the bearer of over 1,000 jutsu. He has the Sharingan and all this other cool stuff, which Kakashi definitely told him in private. And Naruto's not going to just sit there and blab it, but Naruto's just waiting. He's like, I wonder when he's going to use that Sharingan. As Naruto would go on to create 16 clones, and they would all rush in towards the direction of Kakashi, him dispelling each and every single one of them. until he would notice that one of the clones that he kicked, which should have poofed, didn't, and Naruto would actually block the blow a bit. This is when weaving hand signs all the while falling directly into the ground, Naruto would go on to breathe in before shooting a fire style jutsu point blank at Kakashi, who, having to use the substitution jutsu himself, would avoid the damage. However, this is when suddenly as Kakashi would step foot, he would notice that one of his feet was actually sinking. There was a trap, he would think. And Naruto would have like a sly smile on his face, as suddenly Sasuke, appearing out of the bushes, would go on to have 8 shuriken in each hand and toss them towards the direction of Kakashi. All the while Naruto would create a couple more clones and he would body flicker in, obviously not as fast as Kakashi can, but pretty damn fast enough to the point where Naruto was actually capable of slightly grazing the bells on Kakashi's waist, stunning him just long enough for him to grab onto Naruto's arm and throw him across the battlefield. This, however, is when Sakura, coming in out of nowhere, like rushing in, practically closing her eyes as she does so, would be like, charge! She's trying to grab onto the bells, hoping she looks cool, but Kakashi quite literally just olays her as she falls onto the ground and she eats dust. This is when Sasuke would get into a bit of a taijutsu skirmish with Kakashi, as Naruto would say, Sasuke, use a fire style jutsu! Him weaving the hand signs as every single clone right next to him, which would be a grand total of like 6, since Kakashi would disperse most of them, would end up using a wind style jutsu, which could actually amplify the fire power of the flame jutsu, increasing its size, much like if you've ever made like a little bit of like a flame, like to roast marshmallows. If you like shoot air on it, for some reason it gets bigger instead of smaller, and that's exactly what's happening. So this Genin level jutsu out of nowhere turns into this Jonin level flame attack that scorches the grass and a couple of trees, stunning Kakashi, who at this point is now having to low-key go full throttle, thinking about whether he should actually use the Sharingan, when suddenly, backpedaling, Kakashi's foot would completely fall, twisting his ankle, as Naruto, knowing the position of these traps that he would have made, would end up being like, go, as himself and Sasuke would just immediately ambush Kakashi. Naruto pretty much celebrating almost immediately, as Sasuke would be like, huh, like smiling, you know what I mean? Guess that idea of yours worked. With us having a little bit of a flashback to, since they had so much time to actually wait for Kakashi, Naruto didn't decide to just sit there. He actually ended up asking what they think the test is going to be, with Naruto saying that just in case they have to go up against Kakashi, they should maybe set up some traps. And though Sasuke was like, yeah, but what if he has to like makes us face off against each other? Then like those traps are going to make the battlefield weird. And Naruto's like, yeah, well, if that's the case, then we'll just move the battlefield somewhere else. So they made the traps. They ended up pretty much just deciding that all 3 of them were going to try their best, and it freaking worked out. Those traps, that tardiness from Kakashi, is quite literally the reason that these students were capable of getting one up on him. And due to that, Kakashi would smile before then saying, well, what are you gonna do with the 2 bells? With Naruto not thinking twice as he tosses one of the bells towards Sakura and says good luck, giving her the most pure-hearted smile, leading to her feeling bad for every single time she had a bad thought about Naruto. Every time she looked at him weird, anytime she called him a weirdo, all of that, she just immediately starts feeling bad because, I mean, who wouldn't? This dude is like so freaking cool. He just immediately threw away his shot at becoming a Genin and didn't even think twice about it. And at that notion, Kakashi would eye smile, happy at the person that Naruto has become, thinking that not only is Naruto a splendid shinobi, but he's even an amazing person. He would smile thinking back to that boy whose life he had saved that one time on the Hokage monument, and he would think that Minato would be proud. This is when Kakashi would go on to reveal the fact that no one's getting expelled, and that was just a bit of an illusion, just to see what they would do in a very difficult situation, saying that he's glad to announce that they are the new Team 7, which leads them to go out and celebrate, and then follows that up immediately with like a little bit of like a 1 or 2 week time skip. Whichever you really want to pick, it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, the meat and potatoes of what ends up happening after this is that we would finally get the first mission for Naruto, with Naruto spending that week or 2 weeks, however you want to put it, speaking to Kurama, asking how first missions have gone for his other hosts. Kurama explaining that his mother was his previous host, and her first mission was yada yada yada. Naruto hearing all about this, knowing about Kushina and all that, would be like, that's so cool. as Naruto would just be like, I can't wait to become even half the shinobi that she is, with Kurama greeting that with a snarl, as we pretty much end up jump cutting to the actual first mission of Team 7, them all meeting at the Tenchi Bridge, or not Tenchi Bridge, sorry, the village gate, where once there, Tazuna would be like, all right, let's get going. 30 minutes passing, as right outside of the village, Naruto would spot a low-level genjutsu. Having been told all about what those are by Kurama, and doing a little bit of looking into them in a couple of books and paying extra attention in class since he wasn't goofing off, he was actually literally listening to Haruka whenever he could, and just absorbing the information like a sponge. So, as soon as Naruto would spot that, he would pretty much look to Sasuke, look at the puddle, and suddenly as soon as the two demon brothers would lunge out, Naruto and Sasuke would both simultaneously handle one of the demon brothers before Kakashi could even fake his death, stunning the Chunin brothers, who would almost immediately be put down on the ground, with Naruto holding a kunai to one of their necks and Sasuke stepping on the other's wrist like as hard as he possibly could. This would leave Kakashi to walking over to them and kind of looking at them as he would be like, well, what's the reason that you guys try to attack us? As they would pretty much spill their guts, and Kakashi would end up taking them, to turn them into the bingo book, seeing as he could make a little bit of a profit off that. So with that encounter having been over and the team once again, much like in the original, pretty much begging for the mission to continue, that's exactly what would happen. They make their way continuing forward, and eventually they would run into the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza Momochi, whose appearance would play out much like in the original, what with him using the Demon Mist Jutsu, leaving the entire battlefield to be very murky and like just very difficult to see. So Naruto, weaving a bunch of hand signs and slamming his hand on the ground, would release a burst of wind that isn't necessarily used for like damage, but Naruto has thought about that. With smoke bombs being a casual thing in the Naruto verse, Naruto has thought of these little countermeasure jutsus that he's able to think up about. And so finding one that was very low level, it was I want to say D rank jutsu. Naruto's capable of pretty much playing this out as all of the mist gets dispersed, and this would mean that the element of surprise that Zabuza would have would be gone. Him rushing at Naruto and deciding he'll take him out first, as suddenly a kunai would stop that blade, and it would be Kakashi, as both of them would embark on their first match, which ultimately in this timeline would not result in Zabuza catching Kakashi in the water prison, just due to the fact that Kakashi would actually get the backup of Sasuke and Naruto in very minuscule ways, because mind you, Naruto is not dumb enough to blatantly think he can actually stand side by side at this point, and his humility would allow him to provide backup support in any little way that he can, yelling out call out to the hand signs that Zabuza would be performing, as Kakashi would eventually get serious and pull out his Sharingan. This would ultimately lead to Kakashi just bodying Zabuza in the water, as he would once again be hit by the water dragon attack and ultimately be taken down by Haku, who, saving Zabuza at the last moment before Kakashi could finish him, would disappear alongside of him, with Kakashi thanking Naruto and Sasuke, who were both actually making callouts, and you obviously have, Sakura over there protecting the bridge builder, who wasn't even lunged at. He would think that this team is, growing along pretty well, noting that Naruto clearly is the stronger of Naruto and Sasuke, which would of course be noticed by Sasuke, who by the time that they would finally make it to Tazuna's house, would take a moment to ask Naruto just how he got so strong, saying that since he grew up alone, there's no way that a bunch of people could have taught him these jutsus, and the skills that he were implying were things that he shouldn't have real world experience in. So why does it almost feel like Naruto has experience, but he's also doesn't at the same time? Naruto would look to Sasuke as, just blatantly, he just tells him, oh, right, that. Well, when I was younger, Kakashi actually ended up giving me a list of a couple of things to practice and work on. He showed me the basics to the fire style jutsu when I saw you do it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever and I wanted to be just like you. So I spent a couple of months learning to use that jutsu. Oh, and when it comes to, my speed and strength, he also gave me a workout program which I followed religiously. So that's why you might feel like I'm a bit faster and stronger than you. I don't mind sharing it with you. I'm actually about to go do some of my laps that I do every day if you want. With Sasuke kind of being like, all right, I'll try it, and going along with Naruto, not viewing him as like lesser than, but having thought that they were equals, clearly now understanding, damn, Naruto's low-key stronger than me. So once they would do this, Naruto would go on to ask Sasuke, why it was that they've never really talked before. Sasuke just pretty much telling them that they had no reason to, but since they're on a team, there's really no helping it. So Naruto would nod, telling Sasuke that, he appreciates that honesty, as Sasuke would say he appreciates him helping him out. This is when Sakura would come outside and be like, oh, you guys are doing training without me? As Naruto would go on to say, yeah, we were actually about to do a bit of calisthenics, want to join? Which ultimately leads to the team starting to build up a little bit of chemistry, them talking amongst each other, Naruto giving a little bit of tidbit information, Sakura kind of killing the vibe at some points whenever she started like wanting Sasuke a lot, and just being thirsty for him, and Sasuke just bringing her back down to earth. It would be a pretty interesting dynamic that would be cooking here, which is a little strange to say, but yeah, it's pretty fun. Anyways, though, with that being the case, a week, I want to say 2 weeks and some change would pass, as the team would help Tazuna out with the bridge building efforts, and ultimately we would finally get to the day where Tazuna and his men would attack. So while Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were on the not the Tenchi bridge, but the Naruto bridge, they would actually not be home, or Naruto would in this case, to save Inari and Tsunami, which is going to be playing a huge part in this fight as soon as we get to this later portion. But anyways, continuing forth, as they would face off against each other and Naruto would spot Haku once again, Naruto couldn't help but just think, I knew it. I knew you weren't a real tracking ninja, just pointing towards Haku and explaining why he felt that way. Haku kind of like smiling, as Naruto would be like, all right, I'll take this one. With Sasuke be like, no, I got this fight. Him, like cracking his knuckles, as going over towards the direction of Haku, they would begin their canonical fight. Naruto noticing the moment that the fight started shifting when Haku was getting serious, as he would get in the middle of the fight yelling out, Sasuke, look out! As he would throw a multitude of shuriken with lines on them that would actually wrap around Haku. Naruto saying, I won't let you use that jutsu! Haku being like, what? He knows? As Naruto would have been paying close attention to the hand signs that he was actually displaying. Naruto in this moment would then go on to use a fire style jutsu, igniting the lines on flame, as Naruto would say, I picked this trick up from the Chunin book. That sounded weird. Basically what I'm trying to say is Naruto had read like a Jonin Jutsu book in the library with a bunch of basic techniques, and one of those that he ended up learning about was the line shuriken technique, where it's just, lines appear and you're able to like light them on fire or electricity, which obviously in this case Naruto has only learned how to use flame release, so he does that. And now Haku's kind of stuck in this weird position where he's unable to form his jutsu unless he gets burned. But Haku turning over towards the direction of Zabuza and seeing that he needed his help would end up just being like, to hell with that, as formulating the hand signs regardless and moving, his body would like start catching on fire. Haku just kind of gritting his teeth through the pain, as Naruto would be like, there's no way, he did it anyways. Watching on as a bunch of mirrors would appear in front of himself and Sasuke, as he would look around and see Haku's reflection with the burnt mask. Naruto in this timeline never having had that encounter with Haku, seeing as his chakra control was better, therefore he didn't have to do the tree walking training exercise as much as he did in the original, so that Naruto-Haku connection doesn't exist. Meaning that in the moment that Naruto and Sasuke start getting berated by Senbons, this is real. Naruto and Sasuke would struggle to stay afloat, as Naruto would use the clone jutsu to try to keep up, but due to the fact that he can't make more than 16 clones just due to the nature of how the clone jutsu works, he would ultimately start getting beaten down, simultaneously with Sasuke, who at this point would undergo a change, developing his Sharingan first Tomoe, as he would start being capable of dodging, but noting that Naruto wasn't able to do so, he would start helping actively, which would leave a saddened Haku to just continue throwing the Senbon, wanting this to be over, because at the end of the day, these two are kids. He doesn't want to actually kill them, but his master needs him. And so Haku throwing a multitude of Senbon that were definitely going to deal damage to Naruto would leave Sasuke to jumping in the way, as Naruto could feel time practically freeze as Sasuke's body would hit the ground. And in that moment, something would shift. a bunch of chakra would start pouring out from Naruto's body, as you could just see the avatar of Kurama behind him, as Naruto would look at his hands and realize the power, and suddenly hear the voice of Kurama telling him that this should be impossible, but right now he's using his power, telling him to hurry up. As Naruto, taking the moment and the fact that he now has the upper hand, he would lunge towards the direction of Haku inside the mirror, absolutely shattering it with a single punch, breaking Haku's mask and nose, as Haku, now laying on the ground, having taken such a powerful blow that he was just like literally like coughing out blood, and blood was pouring out from his nose. He would be like, "Finish me." As Naruto would stand over him and tell him he's not going to. He's been defeated. As suddenly the sound of 1,000 birds chirping would be heard, and Haku's body would move so fast, faster than his body had moved in the mirrors, faster than before the fight had started. And suddenly, before he knew it, Haku's chest was being pierced by a Chidori, as Naruto would slightly look away, before then looking right back, and then rushing towards Sasuke. Naruto asking Kurama if there's anything at all he could do to save Sasuke, with Kurama kind of just being like, "If you imbue my okay, I'm not gonna do the voice. Kurama just being like, "If you imbue my chakra and you give some of it to Sasuke, his body will most likely be able to heal out of the critical state." Naruto simply rushing over towards his side, holding Sasuke by the head, as Naruto placing his hand on his chest and being explained exactly how to mold his chakra. Naruto would do exactly that on the first try, not stuttering for a moment, as Sasuke immediately opens his eyes and starts coughing. Seeing the blurry image of Naruto before him, as he would ask Naruto what happened, Naruto still having the fangs, the whiskers prolonged, as he pretty much just says he thought he lost him, telling him that he beat Haku, leaving Sasuke to just kind of breathe heavily as he thinks, "Glad you were able to pull it off, rookie." As Naruto would smile at Sasuke, and Sakura would go rushing in, literally just abandoning her post next to Tazuna, as she's like, "Sasuke!" She starts crying over him, being like, "I thought you died." With Naruto just kind of like walking over towards Kakashi, who at this point would pretty much have been like dealing the last blows on Zabuza, when suddenly Tazuna would arrive. This is when the entire scene would shift, and we would also get the reveal of Tsunami and Inari being held captive by Tazuna, pretty much blackmailing him to destroy his own bridge or they die, which would leave all of them to freeze up, as Gato would say, "You want something done right, you gotta do it yourself," kicking Haku in the face, leaving Naruto to just kind of turn away and grit his teeth, as being unable to contain his emotions. Naruto would just like say, he wouldn't say the same speech in the original, but he'd be like, "He threw his life away for you and you're just gonna let him disrespect his corpse? That's so wrong. That's so wrong." Leaving Zabuza to just soak in that moment and not fall into sadness, but rage, understanding that Naruto's got a freaking point. So Zabuza, having nothing to lose from attacking Gato and his men, would just lunge in, leading to the two, goons who were actually holding Inari and Tsunami captive to be like, "He'll kill us. He doesn't care," just watching as the dude's literally mauling all of his men and ultimately kills Gato. This leaves both of the guys to be like, "Let's get out of here," as they run away. However, they're stopped by the villagers, who finally having arrived would end up making their presence known and lead to the same happy ending that we get in the original, ultimately leaving the Naruto bridge to be called the Naruto Bridge and starting the next arc, which is the Chunin exams. And with the team finally being done with that mission, they would return to Konoha, where they quickly go on to inform Hiruzen of the nature of the mission, Kakashi explaining how Naruto's Nine Tails power actually came out, and Hiruzen asking Naruto how that felt, how that went, with us flashing back in time to what Naruto was thinking meanwhile all that was happening, him hearing the voice of Kurama in his head, telling him to control the power, as Naruto, reeling his fists back, would take down Haku, and keep a state of mind relatively calm. I mean, considering that he did just in his eyes kill his best friend. And we would once again hear the voice of Kurama explaining to Naruto how to save Sasuke, something extremely uncharacteristic for the beast considering where we're at in the story. And so with Naruto remembering that moment, we would see Naruto internally just be like, "Thanks, Kurama," as he would go on to tell Hiruzen that it was great, explaining that he felt like he was actually able to control the power. Hiruzen turning to Kakashi, who would nod, and Hiruzen hearing that would smile, saying that he's glad Naruto's the Jinchuriki, saying that he doesn't know how many people could go through something like that as well as he has, going on to give them their pay for the missions, as he would then give Kakashi this look, almost as if to say, so are you gonna tell them? As Kakashi would nod, and this is when about 5 minutes after, Kakashi would stop the group, going on to inform them about the Chunin exams, an opportunity to move up in rankings that can allow them to get more difficult missions, and overall just give them experience, telling them that this isn't a game and that this is literal life and death, saying that all three of them have to agree if they're going to be taking this, with all three of them looking at each other and Naruto asking Sakura, "Hey Sakura, you think you can do it?" As Sakura looking to Sasuke, seeing that look in his eyes of, like, can you? She would nod, being like, yeah, of course I can do it. I'm ready, cha! With Naruto turning to Sasuke and asking if he feels ready for it. Sasuke telling him that he's kidding, right? With Naruto smiling, as all three of them would pretty much nod in unison. Kakashi smiling, as he would say that he'll be taking care of the sign-up process, telling them that they have 2 weeks to train, and to not waste any of their time. And so, after disappearing, we have a bit of a 2-week time skip, where Sakura would be freaking out about it, doing her best to train, Sasuke would be absolutely locked in, making sure that he never has to go through that embarrassment of having Naruto save his life, and Naruto would be spending his time during those 2 weeks working with Kurama to see if there's any way that Naruto can actually tap into that power without the emotion of rage, with him ultimately being capable of using the powers of the Nine Tails, at least the Nine Tails aura, not the cloak, not the 1 Tails, 2 Tails, or none of that, just literally the base aura that he would have used against Haku, just due to the fact that, mind you, there's 2 reasons. 1, even though Kurama would want to give Naruto more power, he's at an age where, not gonna lie, his body just straight up could not handle the reprimands of that. And 2, Naruto still hasn't removed the seal, and in order to fully do that, Naruto needs the key from Jiraiya, so that's gonna be completely stopping everything there. So yeah, Naruto's going to be having access to the Nine Tails like powers, but like a very, very weak version of it. One that doesn't corrupt him and actually allows Naruto to be completely level-headed. It's basically like going into Kaioken at this point, which is pretty freaking sick. Not to mention the fact that it even comes with a base boost to his healing stats, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, after this 2-week time period would finally be over, and the team would meet up at the Chunin exam building, they would all walk inside where Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would immediately notice that there's a strange genjutsu in the air. Sasuke outwardly saying something as the team finally makes their way towards the actual room. This is when Neji, Tenten, and Lee would finally arrive, as Lee would try hitting on Sakura like in the original, and ultimately start to spark up a fight between himself and Sasuke, saying something along the lines of, "You must be Sasuke Uchiha. I've heard about your accomplishments in the Land of Waves and how you were the Rookie of the Year. Please, if it is not too much of a disrespectful question, fight me." As, Sasuke would look at him and say, "Dude, get lost. I don't have time for you right now." With Lee throwing a kick, which Sasuke would stop, as both Lee and Sasuke would get very serious. This would pretty much lead Sasuke to not being able to even back down at this point, as he would tell him that he'll fight him, but not to get mad at him if he sends him to the hospital before the exams. Lee smiling, as he would say, "Oh, and one more thing. Let us only use taijutsu for this fight," with a smile on his face. And so, Sasuke accepting to those conditions would end up turning towards Lee, getting into his fighting stance as Lee rushes him fast as ever, completely embarrassing Sasuke, hitting him over and over again, forcing Sasuke to actually awaken his Sharingan, where at that point Sasuke could keep up with his movements, but unfortunately for Sasuke, Lee was too strong, which ultimately leads us down the path of Guy Sensei putting a stop to the fight, and Sasuke just being pissed. This bushy bright eyebrowed nobody just came over here and embarrassed him in front of Sakura and Naruto, no less. It's annoying, he would think, getting back up as Naruto would tell him that he underestimated him, but next time he won't do that. Plus, to top things off, he won't be limited with just taijutsu. Sasuke looking at him as Naruto would give him this look of like, "I know you could have had that." Both of them, getting up, or sorry, Sasuke getting up as he'd be like, "Whatever." This is when walking inside, they go on to take the written test, which, I can't imagine a world where this plays out differently. Maybe Naruto isn't loudmouth about the final question, he just accepts it, meaning that a couple more people would be eliminated. But other than that, there's really no changes to this spot. So we're able to just get into the actual part where they enter the exams, and there, Naruto would go on to look to Sasuke saying, "Sasuke, you need to lead us during this forest. What should we do?" Sasuke staring at Naruto and nodding as he goes on to say that he thinks that the best course of action would probably be to head towards the tower, saying that once there, they can try to ambush whatever team actually gets the scroll, and if they can't beat them, well then they never deserve to be here in the first place. Naruto nodding as the team would do exactly that, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, treetop to treetop, with Naruto suddenly hearing the voice of Kurama in his head. Naruto, something's coming. This signals to Naruto to yell at the group to stop, as he would look around asking Kurama internally, where? And before he knows it, a man would be standing before them, or a cross-dresser, whatever you want to say. Orochimaru nonetheless would be there in front of them, and in that moment, all three of them could feel a chill down their spine. Even Naruto, who you would think wouldn't feel that due to the fact that he felt the incredible bloodlust of Kurama, but this was different. This guy was straight up pure evil, and you could just feel the intentions behind Orochimaru just with his aura itself. So, as the team would feel fear and Naruto realizing that his teammates are going to get hurt unless he does something, he would simply cry out, Kurama! As suddenly, his body would be enveloped with the aura of the Nine Tails, rushing at Orochimaru immediately as he would yell back, get out of here! This is when Naruto swinging his kunai at the direction of Orochimaru, he would be parried as his arm would be grabbed and twisted before being kicked off the tree, Naruto using his kunai to stab into the tree before then using his feet to latch onto it. This is when he would watch that Sasuke had some blood dripping from his leg, having used that to get himself out of the fear, and protected Sakura from one of Orochimaru's attacks, a multitude of snakes having flown at them. And so with Naruto staring up at his teammates, Naruto would internally cry out, Kurama, do I have any chance of beating this guy? With the Nine Tails telling him no, his best chance is to run away. Scaring Naruto, who gritting his fists and teeth would stare at Sasuke, seeing that he was trying to fight him in this moment, lunging in fast as ever as both of them would try to ambush him with the taijutsu barrage, but it wouldn't work and none of Naruto's jutsus could land. It was as if this guy had a counter for everything he was doing, everything he was thinking. Orochimaru was already 5 steps ahead and he made a fool of them, ending the battle with Sasuke as he would grab him by the legs with a snake arm, latching onto him on the trees, all the while simultaneously lighting 5 fingers up in flames, Naruto moving fast as ever as Orochimaru would time things perfectly and land the blow square to his stomach, using the 5-pronged seal as he would instantly cut off the connection Naruto had with Kurama, this shutting everything down for Naruto as he would fall unconscious and hit the ground from 20 feet up, leaving Sasuke to watch on in horror as he would scream out, Naruto! As Orochimaru's head would lunge at him and bite down on his neck, with Orochimaru smiling as he would whisper in his ear, now try not to die, Sasuke, before disappearing and leaving Sakura to pick up the pieces. This would ultimately culminate in what would have happened in the original story, Sakura taking care of Naruto and Sasuke, Rock Lee arriving and helping with the sound genin, as Sasuke ultimately waking out of his stupor would finally use the power of the curse mark, absolutely embarrassing the other ninjas. All the while Naruto would wake up, only to find out that his connection with Kurama was terminated. The more Naruto tried to form a connection with Kurama, the less it worked, and Naruto would realize that whatever that guy did completely destroyed everything. Naruto would feel tears coming down his face as looking outside, he could see Sasuke just snapping the arms of somebody. Getting up, staring at his teammate, Naruto and Sasuke would lock eyes, Sasuke stopping for a moment as Sakura rushing over to him and begging him to stop would finally snap Sasuke out of him, leading to the team finally taking the scroll and making their way to the tower, where once there, Kakashi would perform a seal with blood on Sasuke much like in the original, with us getting the original 1v1 fights that we have, meaning that Naruto would once again be paired up against Kiba and show exactly what he has in the battle. Not having access to any of Kurama's abilities and simply just outplaying Kiba at every step. When he used his transformation jutsu and tried using the wolf fang over fang, Naruto would create a multitude of clones, not allowing each of them to realize which was the real Naruto. And when everything was finally said and done, Naruto would use a wire shuriken jutsu, wrapping it around Akamaru, taking him completely out of the fight, as Naruto would engage Kiba in a one-on-one taijutsu bout, countering and parrying his every move, as finally landing a Gale Fist straight to his stomach, Kiba would be sent to the ground. feeling the impact recoil on his chest, Naruto weaving the hand signs for a fire style jutsu to end everything off, as Kiba appearing behind him, who had actually been the one that Naruto thought was Akamaru, would appear saying, "You're done, Naruto," only for Naruto to substitute behind him and hold a kunai to his neck. This would be cold, leaving the entire audience and even Hiruzen to sit there kind of like pulling at his goatee, being like, huh, that's an interesting way of doing things, with Kiba lifting both arms and being like, alright, he got me, I quit. I gotta give it to you, Naruto. I never thought you had that in you. Leaving Naruto to just kind of pay him back with like a half-sided smile, as Kiba would end up making his way back towards the stands, kind of nodding to Naruto, as Naruto doing so as well would simply just watch on as the rest of the participants have their fights. And with Naruto watching the battle with Hinata and Neji, Naruto would find it hard to look away. Just watching as Hinata would be taken away on a stretcher, and Naruto would just think to himself why he had to take things so far. This is when, after the Chunin exams would finally be over, Naruto would make his way towards Kakashi, asking him for help. Kakashi asking what he needs, as Naruto would go on to tell him that he can't feel his connection to Kurama anymore. Kakashi closing one eye as thinking about things, he would go on to tell Naruto that he would help him, but he has to help Sasuke with the Sharingan training. And with Naruto looking at Sasuke and then realizing that he's on his own, he would nod, telling Kakashi that he'll do everything he can to get stronger, and fist bumping Sasuke, telling him to come back even stronger than he is now. Sasuke telling him that that's the plan, before both of them would body flicker away, and we would have Naruto simply stuck there, wondering how he's gonna train. Spending the next 4 days primarily focusing on physical training to improve his speed and strength, as Naruto at the end of every day would just spend hours laying in his bed trying to call out Kurama. But much like when he was a child, there'd be nothing, with this experience being just heartbroken for Naruto, seeing as he's right back to square one. He can't even hear Kurama, and Naruto doesn't even know how much longer this will take. So the next morning, Naruto would make his way towards the village library, trying to see if maybe there's anything that he could think of about seals in the library, knowing it's a long shot. But as Naruto would make his way there, he would run into a man with white hair who was staring into the bathhouse. Naruto simply asking what he's doing, with Jiraiya looking down at the kid and be like, "Oh, I was just doing some research," as Naruto would roll his eyes, leaving Jiraiya to be like, "Honest, would the legendary Sannin of the Hidden Leaf Village partake in such activities?" As Naruto would be like, "Wait, you're the Sannin of the village?" With Jiraiya saying the one and only, Naruto just being like, "Prove it." This is when Jiraiya would go on to summon a toad, and with Naruto making the connection that this is the guy Kurama had told him about, the one that had actually trained his father, Naruto would say, "Jiraiya, it's you!" Leaving Jiraiya stunned at the fact that this guy knew his name. He would then smile, holding his hairs. He'd be like, "Ha, an adoring fan. Yeah, you can have an autograph." Naruto taking the book as he would say, "Kurama told me you were a pervert, but I had no idea it'd be this bad." As Jiraiya would say, "Hey," and Naruto would say, "Look, I don't have time to explain things to you. I need your help. I think you're the only one that could help me. You trained my dad, didn't you? Minato, the 4th Hokage?" Naruto saying it bluntly because at this point, Naruto was just looking for any help that he could get. As Jiraiya would say, "Wait, you're Dinar?" before stopping and saying, "Wait, how did you know Minato was your father? Who told you?" Naruto looking at him and saying, "It's common sense. Plus, it helped that the Ninetales told me." As Jiraiya would freak out and say, "What? You're talking with the Ninetales? What has he told you, boy?" Naruto kind of looking away as he would say, "What hasn't he told me?" Before then looking at Jiraiya and telling him that he needs to help him, going on to start rambling on about what happened in the forest, explaining that the last thing he remembers Kurama said to him was to run, that he can't beat Orochimaru. And Jiraiya hearing that would say, "Hold on, pause. You ran into Orochimaru?" As Naruto kind of just has to explain everything from the top, his childhood, how he, started talking to the Ninetales, how Naruto actually built a connection with the Ninetales, he helped them in the Land of the Waves mission, and how Kurama had advised him to run away. This would stun Jiraiya, who, mind you, his only previous experiences with the Ninetales were all bad, so he'd be on high alert, telling Naruto that he shouldn't trust or speak to the Ninetales. As Naruto would tell him that he can understand why he feels that way, but Naruto doesn't. He knows Kurama. He knows the Ninetales. Jiraiya looking at him and telling him that nobody knows that creature, before Naruto would tell him, beg him, "Please, I don't know what kind of sealing jutsu he used on me, but I can't imagine I'm gonna find anything to break it in the library. All I need is to get the seal back to how it was. I'm not asking for you to free the Nine Tails. I'm just asking to be able to talk to my best friend." With Jiraiya hearing this and seeing like tears begin to well up in Naruto's eyes, as he would say, all right, kid, I'll help ya," advising Naruto to follow behind him, who doing so would end up arriving at like a nearby waterfall training area. Jiraiya going on to tell him to sit still, and that this will only burn as long as he's awake. Five-pronged seal appearing on his hand, as placing his hand on Naruto's seal, he would reverse it back to what it was before. Naruto falling unconscious, as in the midst of said unconsciousness, Naruto would see Kurama inside of his cage. Staring at him as getting up, he would say, "Kurama, I thought," with Kurama telling him, "You thought you lost me. Yeah, I know, kid." Going on to tell him why did he have to go and get Jiraiya to help of all people, as Naruto would tell him that he's the best person for the job. He was a Sannin and he trained his father. Kurama kind of like being like, "You could have had anybody be your mentor, not that perverted bastard." With Naruto laughing, as he would pretty much smile, telling Kurama that he's so happy. Kurama kind of like sitting back down as he would tell Naruto that they can talk again, so to wipe those tears away. With Naruto doing just that, as he would wake up a few moments later, and Jiraiya would ask Naruto how he feels. Naruto hugging Jiraiya as he would tell him that he can finally speak to Kurama again, telling him that Kurama has a few choice words for him. Jiraiya being like, "As far as I'm concerned, I don't care about what a fox thinks about me," before beginning to walk away, as Naruto holding out a hand would say, "Wait, I need you to train me, just like you did my father Minato. Please, my training stagnated a long time ago, and if I could have you show me some of the things that you showed my father, then I'm sure I could get even stronger for the Chunin exams. I know that somewhere out there Sasuke's getting stronger as we speak, and I don't want other people to have to pick up the slack that I can't carry. Kurama's always been teaching me, but maybe I can learn things from others for a bit, and I can get strong enough so that Kurama doesn't always have to help me." Jiraiya looking at Naruto, as seeing that determined look in his eyes, he would tell him that he'll help him on one condition: that he would get him a hot date with a young Ichi girl. Naruto kind of just like looking down as he would walk away, hearing the voice of Kurama telling him this guy's the worst, as Naruto would end up pretty much walking away, and Jiraiya would be like, wait, kid, I was joking. All right, I'll train ya." Leaving to like a little mini 1 month time skip where Naruto and Jiraiya do a bit of training, where they mainly focus on the basics of ninjutsu, a little bit of polishing up Naruto's taijutsu skills, a whole lot of Nine Tails training with Naruto meditating and controlling the power of Kurama, and some toad summoning training. With Naruto being incapable of summoning the big Gamabunta on his first try, but actually summoning a rather large toad, stunning Jiraiya, who being shocked at this, would then remember his first summon, a tiny little baby toad. And with Kurama, seeing this from the inside of Naruto, he would tell him to use his chakra and summon the biggest one. Naruto doing exactly just that, as the power of the Nine Tails would immediately cover Naruto's body. However, it wouldn't just be the embers, but a full one-tailed cloak. Naruto immediately weaving the hand sign, cutting the blood, and slamming his hand on the ground as he would say, "Summoning Jutsu!" This is when Gamabunta would arrive, with him shocking Jiraiya, as Gamabunta would say, "Who summoned me?" Turning to see that it was Naruto, not believing it until he could see the aura of chakra emanating from him, before then turning to Jiraiya and asking whatever possessed him to teach a kid with the Nine Tails how to summon him. Jiraiya saying that he's not just a kid with the Nine Tails, he's the son of Minato. Gamabunta kind of scoffing as he would say, "Fine, then I'll help the kid if he can pass my test." Going on to pretty much start like that whole little thing where Naruto had to stay on top of him, which in this timeline would just be so easy because Naruto has access to one cloak and he would basically not fall off for anything in the world. So with that day finally being over and Jiraiya realizing like, damn, like Naruto actually might have somewhat of a connection with Kurama, he would end up pretty much telling him that there is a world where Naruto and Kurama's relationship is real, but he would advise Naruto that a tailed beast is still a tailed beast, so not to disregard the possibility that Kurama could simply be faking being his friend. staring deep into the eyes of Naruto as though to look at Kurama himself, and Kurama within the cage completely uncaring about what he just told him. Since Kurama had practically abandoned that idea a long time ago, he would simply sit there saying nothing, as Naruto, thinking about that, would end up then getting up and telling Jiraiya that there's no way the Nine-Tails would do that. He knows him too well. They've talked for hours. He's the closest thing he's ever had to a friend in his entire life, and he's not gonna let Jiraiya make those accusations about him. Kurama low-key smiling internally, kind of like feeling heartwarmed at the fact that this kid genuinely trusts him with his life, as Jiraiya would tell him he understands, but still, take heed. Naruto completely ignoring that warning, as he would go on to, be kind of mad at Jiraiya for the day, and with the training finally having been over, Naruto would begin to walk away. Jiraiya standing up as he would call Naruto back, Naruto going back as he would ask what he wants. This is when Jiraiya, placing his hand on his stomach, would say, "Don't make me regret this, kid." 5 fingers lighting up ablaze as he would weaken the seal just ever so slightly, not so much that he just completely lets Kurama out, but just enough where Kurama's going to be capable of siphoning way more chakra into Naruto. I want to say 3 tails of the chakra, siphoning it up just enough to where it's at like 70%. And so, with Naruto thanking Jiraiya and telling him that he won't disappoint him, and that soon he'll see that Kurama is trustworthy, he would walk away. Jiraiya closing his eyes as he would hope that whatever comes out with this would be the positive outcome. As Naruto getting to his room would lay down, covering himself with the sheets as he would just say, "Good night, Kurama." This is when finally going to bed, Naruto would wake up the following day, ready and eager for his fight against Neji Hyuga. And so, Naruto stepping into the ring would see the judgmental eyes of Neji, who staring at him would almost be telling him that he could already back down if he wants since he won't lose. Naruto cracking both knuckles, as the exam proctor would say, "Hajime." Naruto feeling time practically pause around himself as the voice of Kurama would tell him, "Use it." Naruto instantly tapping into the power of the 3 tails as he would lunge at Neji, and before Neji could even register what would happen, Neji would have been gut punch KO'd, one-tapped, in front of every villager, as Naruto would be standing there, power of the 9 tails now completely gone, with only some of the most highly ranking ninjas having noticed what happened. Naruto used the power of the 9 tails, and it was so quick that the average person couldn't have known, but Neji, the proctors, the Chunin, Hiruzen, and the other Kage, they all recognized it. And with the match being called in Naruto's favor, he would make his way back to the stands, where Naruto would go up to Sakura, who would be stunned. "Naruto, when did you get so strong?" Naruto smiling at her as he would say, "That wasn't me. That was Kurama." As, she'd feel like a bit strange, but ultimately seeing that Naruto's in his right mind, she would not think twice about it, waiting until eventually Sasuke and Kakashi would arrive and he would partake in his battle against the One-Tails of the Sand Village. This battle would pretty much play out just like you would expect. Sasuke uses the Chidori, Gaara uses the Sand Prison or the Sand Dome Jutsu thing that he used for his ultimate defense, and ultimately sparks the attack on the village. Once this would happen, Naruto immediately recognizing that his teammate could be in danger facing off against another tailed beast, Naruto would internally question Kurama on what chance they have against defeating this kid, Kurama telling him not to worry, that Shukaku is the weakest among them. Naruto smiling as he would continue jumping from treetop to treetop, eventually running into Kankuro, who in an attempt to stop him using his puppet jutsu, Naruto using the power of the 3 tails would simply take him out immediately, Kankuro not even knowing what hit him, before Naruto eventually running into Tamari would defeat her as well. Arriving to the scene of Sasuke and Gaara about to square off, each of them staring at each other with malicious intent, with Naruto watching on as Sasuke would charge up another Chidori, with the power of the curse mark now beginning to take hold of him. As he would watch, Sasuke would lunge to Gaara, who tanks the attack, using the sand body that he has to not feel a thing. So with Naruto noting this, he would ask Kurama, "Is he impervious?" With Kurama telling him that he's not. He simply hit him at the wrong spot, going on to explain that the way that power is working at the moment is that it's shielding the body of Gaara internally, and with Naruto staring at Sasuke and letting him have a shot at it before he interrupts, he would watch on as Sasuke's Chidori after Chidori attempt would fail, with the arm of Shukaku extending as it would wrap itself around Sasuke, only for one of Naruto's tails to smack whatever the heck that arm was away, and then grab onto Gaara, dragging him out of that sand body entirely and and slamming him on the tree. And so as Gaara would once again regain consciousness or better positioning over himself, Gaara would slump over saying, "Finish me. You're stronger and I've lost." With Naruto extending a hand and telling him that that's not exactly on his to-do list today. As Sasuke would watch this, he would feel a feeling he hasn't exactly felt towards Naruto before. Just pure jealousy. How was he this much stronger than him? Sure, during the academy they were practically equals, but now it's becoming incredibly apparent that Naruto's just better than him, and Sasuke would hate the thought of that. So, with the arc being finished, and Sasuke giving Naruto a bit of a cold shoulder treatment, the village would hold a funeral for Hiruzen, which Naruto would attempt paying his respects. And with the day finally coming and going, eventually we would have the interaction between Jiraiya and Naruto taking place. Him asking Naruto to come along with him for a bit of a special mission. Naruto grabbing his things as he would follow Jiraiya no questions asked, seeing as Naruto's grown very close to Jiraiya over the last 2 to 3 weeks that they had spent together. And as they would embark on their journey, Naruto would ask what exactly they're doing here. Jiraiya smiling as he would go on to say that they're on the search for another Sannin. Naruto asking why, as Jiraiya would go on to explain that they're actually in search of Kurama, practically interrupting his train of thought as he would say, "Tsunade. The village intends to use her healing prowess to help out with the reconstruction and the damage done to civilians." Naruto nodding as he would then look at Jiraiya and say, "Tsunade, right?" Jiraiya would be like, "That fox beat me to the punch, didn't he?" Just kind of like crossing his arms as he would say, "That fox sure has taught you a lot, Naruto. What else has he told you?" Kurama telling him that that's their business, as Naruto would be like, "Kurama said that that's our business." Jiraiya getting pissed off as he would say, "Alright, well we'll have our own business." Looking to Naruto as he would ask him if he wants to get even stronger. This is when Naruto would nod, saying absolutely, saying that he's up to learning any jutsu, any fighting style, anything. He just wants to be strong enough to show Kurama that, to show the world that he's strong. And with Jiraiya hearing that, he would slightly smile, thinking that Ninetales must have really changed, or else he's putting on a heck of an act, and he can't imagine a world in which Kurama would act like that, even if it was a ploy to escape. So as they would continue their journey, Jiraiya would eventually go on to teach Naruto the basics of the Rasengan Jutsu, Naruto having much better chakra control in this timeline, as he would begin to pretty much work towards the first couple of steps. Naruto's training in this timeline looking more so like the one that Boruto had, essentially just being much smoother in nature, with Naruto figuring out the applications and Kurama even giving him a bit of pointers, saying that jutsu of his is basically just a watered down version of his tailed beast bomb. Naruto asking what that is, with Kurama telling him that the next time they need to use it, he'll show him exactly what he's talking about. And so, as Naruto would continue doing his training, he would eventually put the pieces together in 3 days, finding himself inside of a hotel room while Jiraiya was out doing who knows what, as Naruto would have finally created his first perfect Rasengan. As Naruto stares at this blue orb of chakra in front of him, Naruto suddenly hears a knock at the door, and as he goes to answer it, Naruto would be greeted by the red crimson eyes of the Sharingan, and a man with skin so pale that it made him look like a shark. As Naruto would take a step back, Naruto would ask what they want, before Itachi would go on to say that he's coming with them, and Naruto, in a ditch of pretty much trying to fight back against this, would immediately tap into the power of the Ninetales, Kisame saying, well, it appears this one can truly use his powers. Naruto lunging to the direction of Itachi, as Naruto slamming a Rasengan into his stomach would send him crashing into a crater, but as soon as he would do that, Naruto would hear the voice of Itachi echoing, asking if he's done yet, with Kisame cackling asking if he was done shadowboxing yet, leaving Naruto to turn around and realize that not only was that not real, but he wasn't even using the power of the Ninetales, leaving Kurama to tell him to be careful, that the power of the Sharingan is terrifying and could even take control of his mind, so to avoid looking at it, telling him to go full throttle. As Naruto would do this, he would tap into 3 tails of the Ninetales' powers and lunge at the direction of Itachi, this time actually forcing him to dodge. But as Naruto and Itachi would get into that encounter, suddenly we would hear the sound of 1,000 birds chirping as Sasuke would cry out, "Itachi!" rushing in an attempt to kill his older brother. But Itachi would simply parry before holding him by the throat and telling him, "You don't have enough hate, Sasuke." placing him under the effects of the Tsukiyomi, with Sasuke's body slumping. At this moment, Jiraiya would arrive and using the Toad Mouth Jutsu would save both Naruto and Sasuke, forcing Itachi and Kisame to retreat, as eventually Might Guy would arrive, taking Sasuke back to the Leaf Village as he would ask what the status is on their mission, Jiraiya saying that it was going well, until the Akatsuki showed up. Might Guy nodding as he would tell him to do his best to bring back Tsunade, that his best buddy Kakashi was still in the hospital. And as this would finally end, Naruto and Jiraiya would continue their journey with an urgency never seen before, as Naruto would ask Jiraiya what the Akatsuki are and why they're after him, wanting to hear his explanation since of course he'd already heard one from Kurama. But as Jiraiya would go on to explain things, he would actually have a couple of more details, some that Kurama himself had no idea about, and as Naruto would acknowledge all of the facts laid before him, he would nod his head saying that it looks like he needs to get stronger, because one day it might come a time where no one will be there to help him, and he's gonna need to rely on his and Kurama's strength to get out of that one. So, Jiraiya nodding would then lead to Naruto to tell him that he's at least made some steps towards that, creating a Rasengan with one hand, stunning Jiraiya, who would say, "Kid, you learned that jutsu in just 3 days?" Naruto turning to him as he would smile, saying, "Pretty cool, right?" Jiraiya thinking that Naruto's a prodigy among prodigies. As they continue their journey and eventually find Lady Tsunade, she'd be inside of a bar, drunken out of her mind as Jiraiya and Naruto would sit down, Tsunade questioning what Jiraiya is doing here and who the brat is. Naruto not taking offense to this because, mind you, in this timeline, he's just way more used to that. So, simply sitting down and staying silent, understanding that the adults are talking, Naruto would listen as Jiraiya would try to convince Tsunade, with her just disrespecting the seat of the Hokage spot and saying that everyone who's been part of that is a fool, leaving Naruto to have a very out of character moment as standing out of his seat, Naruto would tell her that she's the fool and how dare she disrespect a great man like Hiruzen who died protecting the village, or his father Minato. She's out of her mind if she thinks he's gonna let her talk to them like that. Tsunade getting up and saying, "Well, looks like you do have a voice, kid," leaving Naruto to stare at her directly in the eyes with anger, as Tsunade would say, "Tell you what, you know I'm a betting girl, so how about we do this? If you can land so much as one hit on me, then I'll go back and heal whoever the heck you want me to heal. Heck, I'll even join that place of fools with the Hokages." So as Naruto would hear this and would stare at Jiraiya, who would almost practically be waving his hands like, no, don't do this, kid, Naruto would accept, both of them making their way outside, as Tsunade would go on to tell Naruto she would only be using this finger. Naruto smirking as almost instantaneously the power of the three tails would appear around Naruto, and as Tsunade would see this, she would ask Jiraiya how the heck this brat can control its power so well, that this is the hardest tailed beast to control, before Naruto would blitz right towards her and slam his fist directly into her stomach. She would be sent crashing into a wall where all of the rubble and dust picking up on her would piss her off, standing up as her chakra would flare, and she would tell Naruto that that was a stupid choice, rushing back in as she would attempt to throw a punch at Naruto, only for Jiraiya's long hair to get in the way and stop Tsunade, saying that he recalls when someone loses a bet, they have to accept the terms they created. So, as Tsunade would end up begrudgingly stopping, she would stare at Naruto saying a deal's a deal, telling each of them to meet her at the entrance of the town at, certain time. With the day coming and going, as Tsunade would find herself speaking amongst Orochimaru and Kabuto, Jiraiya and Naruto would watch from a rooftop as Naruto would ask what Tsunade's doing talking to that guy. Jiraiya saying that they'll just watch. There's no way Suna's gonna join him, right? But as he would watch, he would notice that Kabuto would attack her, and that would be their cue to go in and help her. Naruto immediately appearing right next to Tsunade as he would parry the blow that Kabuto attempted to land, saying, "Oh, it's you, Naruto. I was worried somebody," as Naruto would instantly tap into the power of the three tails, and using one of his chakra tails, he would whip Kabuto square into one of the buildings, stunning Kabuto, who barely having had any time to react, would then get back out of there, seeing the 9 Ninetales chakra coating the kid who was now protecting Tsunade, all the while she would be mouth agape wondering why he was fighting so hard for her. But as she would see Jiraiya facing off against Orochimaru, she would nod to Naruto saying, "Handle this guy, we'll take care of the snake." Both of them immediately beginning to fight Orochimaru as they would push him back greatly due to the fact that he didn't have his arms. So, with Orochimaru being placed on the back foot, before these battles could escalate even for 20 more seconds, Kabuto and Orochimaru would reverse summon themselves out of there, with Jiraiya and Tsunade laughing about things, talking about how that felt like the good old days, and Tsunade would say that maybe it won't be so bad to return to the village, with us returning to Konoha, where Tsunade would once again become Hokage and pledge her allegiance to the village, healing a multitude of ninjas, leading to the Naruto and Sasuke rooftop exchange, since after all that time, and after the especially more embarrassing section that he had with Itachi, Sasuke would be in a very bad mental spot. So, challenging Naruto, who would outright refuse the fight, Sasuke would call him a coward and pretty much say all of the worst things he could think of in the book, but Naruto would ignore him, going to walk out as Sasuke immediately throws a kick at Naruto, which Naruto blocks, turning to Sasuke and saying that friends don't fight each other. This is when he would slam the door behind him, leaving Sasuke to sit there pissed off as ever because he didn't get to test out his theory. And with that being the case, this means Kakashi would never see Sasuke having fought Naruto, meaning he would never give him the iconic "I've already lost all of the people you're talking about" speech, likely making it easier for Sasuke to make the choice to join the Sound Four, and once that would happen, he would abandon the village, having that same interaction that he would with Sakura, with the following day coming and going, and the team once again being assigned to the Sasuke retrieval mission. Everything playing out exactly as it would in the canonical story, until they would be trapped in Jirobo's dirt jutsu, which can siphon off chakra. Naruto deciding that if he was going to siphon his chakra, then he was going to give him way too much to be able to do so, instantly yelling out, "Kurama!" As following that yell, Naruto's body would be enveloped with so much chakra as he would extend his tails out to shatter the jutsu, immediately freeing himself and his teammates, Jirobo saying he'll handle this, all the while Naruto would speed blitz him, slamming an elbow directly into the stomach of Jirobo, as then turning to the direction of the other Sound 4, Tayuya would begin to play her flute, trapping Naruto in a genjutsu, which Kurama would snap him out of immediately, seeing as it wasn't the likes of a Sharingan. And so with Naruto snapping out of it, Naruto would immediately go on to catch the attack that had just been launched at him by the spiders guy. I think his name is Kidimaru, I don't know. But the point is he would catch the arrow mid-air, stunning the remaining Sound 4 members as Naruto would snap it before grabbing the opposite end of it and dragging him towards him, leaving Naruto to slam a Rasengan directly into his chest, taking him out, leaving Sakon and Yukon to take a step back going, "What? How does he have this much strength?" With the remaining members of the team all getting up, kind of like a morale boost and being like, "Let's help Naruto." This is when all of them would practically gang up on Sakon, Yukon, and Tayuya as they would take them out immediately, leaving them all to walk towards the small little bin that Sasuke had been inside of and just question what they should do. Naruto would place said bin on his back and say that they need to bring him back, and that since they don't know what'll happen if they open this, they should just do it this way. But only a few minutes into their journey, Sasuke would awaken, and hearing the sounds of his comrades from the Leaf Village, Sasuke would immediately burst out of the bin, asking what the hell they're doing here, and why they keep insisting to meddle on his plans, staring directly at Naruto as he would say that. Naruto turning to him and telling him that they're his friends and they won't abandon him, or let him go to Orochimaru to become some pawn. Sasuke saying that it's better to be a pawn and be strong than it is to be a weak friend. As Naruto staring at Sasuke would tell him he doesn't mean that, but Sasuke would say that's the first thing I've meant in a while, immediately activating the Sharingan as Neji would activate his Byakugan and the rest of the members would all attempt things, Shikamaru attempting to use his Shadow Possession Jutsu, which wouldn't work due to Sasuke seeing it coming, and Choji launching himself like a wrecking ball, all the while Akamaru would prepare to use the Fang over Fang Jutsu. All attacks that wouldn't work until Naruto would finally cry out, "Stop!" This is when, turning towards Sasuke, he would tell him that this is all his fault, isn't it? Had he just fought Sasuke at that hospital, maybe all of this wouldn't be happening. So turning to his comrades, Naruto would say that he'll handle this, looking at Sasuke, who now, having the markings of the curse mark and Sharingan in the 3 Tomoe state in each eye, would stare to Naruto, telling him that this wasn't about that fight. But he can prove here and now that his decisions are the right one, because by destroying Naruto, he could show that he'll get way stronger with Orochimaru, and so, lunging at his direction, immediately starting the battle off with a fire-style jutsu, weaving hand signs so damn fast Neji would be shocked. Naruto would weave hand signs to counteract that jutsu, a wind bullet, as both of them would immediately clash between one another, kunais in each hands, Naruto pushing Sasuke back, as the powers of the Nine Tails would be too much for Sasuke to handle. No matter how much he pushed, cried, or begged, there was nothing Sasuke could do. And after a very rapid fight in which Naruto, using a multitude of different jutsus, Naruto would set up a trap for Sasuke so plain in sight that Sasuke, in his attempt to avoid it and pretty much callously tell him he's a fool for using that jutsu, Naruto would say, "Is he?" as suddenly weaving the hand signs for a fire style jutsu, the same one Sasuke had seen him do such a long time ago, and Naruto would learn seemingly only to impress Sasuke. Naruto would light the cables ablaze, leaving Sasuke to leap up into the air, where Naruto would find Sasuke easy for the taking. However, his wings would sprout, and he would dodge the blow from Naruto. Chidori and Rasengan clashing in the air, as Sasuke's arm would practically feel as though it was getting torn apart. This would ultimately take Sasuke out for the count, as the rest of the Rookie 12 would watch on in amazement. Naruto was so strong, so fast, and precise. Was this really the same kid that was quiet in the back of their classroom for so long, they would think? But as Sasuke's body would hit the ground, Naruto would lay him on top of himself, saying that they need to get going. The team leaving as it would follow Naruto's order, and they would return him to Tsunade, who after performing a surgery would save all the damage done to Sasuke. And due to this timeline, them not getting as deep into the forest, this means that Kimimaru, dude with the Bone Kicking Genkai, wouldn't be able to arrive and have a fight against Naruto, which mind you, would not have done too well for him considering the fact that Naruto is just absurdly strong at this point. I mean, we're talking about a Naruto who actually has tactics, has chakra control, and has the power of the Three Tails at his disposal, which if I'm being honest, he could straight up push way further if he was in a very, very dire situation. And as Naruto would return Sasuke to the hospital, Naruto would not dare leave his side the entire time, being right there the moment that Sasuke would wake up, just sleeping at the bed of Sasuke, with Sasuke glaring at him, feeling his arm in a cast, just wondering why Naruto had to get in his way. But as he would see him, he would realize that his friend was just trying to help. And suddenly, a lot of the emotion Sasuke was feeling would dwindle, him waiting for Naruto to wake up, as Naruto's eyes, blurry as ever, would finally lock in on Sasuke's, and the two would have the heart-to-heart that Naruto was expecting them to have back when he had returned with Tsunade, and Sasuke was healed from the effects of his brother's jutsu. This is when Naruto would ask Sasuke what he intends to do, Sasuke telling him that clearly not go with Orochimaru, that much was obvious. Naruto smiling, as he would go on to tell him that if he's looking for power, he can help him. He knows one of the Sannin, who's probably even stronger than Orochimaru. Sasuke scoffing as he would tell him that he doesn't need his sympathy. But one thing's clear, Naruto stopped him from making a horrible decision, so he owes him this much at least. "I'm sorry, Naruto," he would say, looking away as he couldn't bear the guilt of seeing his friend, who this whole time had never once done a single bad thing to him. Naruto smiling as he would say, "That's what friends are for, and if I ever go losing my cool, then I better hope you'll be there to help me out." Sasuke smirking as the two would laugh for a second, and things would seemingly go back to normal. After about a week of this being the case, eventually Jiraiya would go to ask Naruto if he's willing to come with him during a little bit of a training journey. Naruto nodding, as immediately Naruto would question Jiraiya on whether he can bring a friend with him. Putting Sasuke's case before Jiraiya's, he would pretty much go on to explain to him that he needs power to defeat Itachi. And as Jiraiya would think about this, he would realize that it might be beneficial for Naruto to have a rival. This would push Naruto further, and it would even help Sasuke as well. So, Jiraiya would nod, as Naruto going to Sasuke's house who still has a cast on by the way, would ask him if he's willing to come along. Sasuke saying he was serious about that, as he would grab his things and in about an hour and a half, all of them would say their goodbyes. Naruto apologizing to Sakura for not inviting her, Sakura asking if she can come with Sasuke, and him saying that unfortunately it's more of a private thing. After this would happen, they would say their goodbyes to Kakashi, and then they would be off, beginning a 3-year journey in which case Naruto and Sasuke, training alongside Jiraiya, would learn as much as they possibly can. Developing strange fighting styles the likes of the Toad Sage would teach them, with Naruto evolving his control over the Nine Tails so much so that over the course of this 3-year gap, Jiraiya would have completely come to trust the Nine Tails, and so giving Naruto the key that he needed to unlock or set free the Nine Tails, Naruto would do just that, as the power of the Nine Tails would now fully be given access to Naruto, and Naruto would gain access to the power of KCM1. Mind you, not KCM2, because that's with Sage Mode on top. But yeah, with Naruto's KCM1, Naruto would easily now be upon one of the higher ranking members in the story, with Sasuke over this course of time developing a multitude of lightning jutsus, as well as mastering his power that Orochimaru had given him, which grants him an incredible boost in power, and even shedding that former way of being. Due to the fact that he would be around Naruto and Jiraiya every day, Sasuke's motives would shift completely, and even though he would still want to get revenge for his clan, it wouldn't be the consuming factor in Sasuke's life anymore. Sasuke would be free from the shackles that was Itachi, and by the time they would return back to Konoha, it would be very clear to everybody that Sasuke and Naruto have changed. A lot, actually. Naruto was no longer that shy person in the back of the class that said nothing, but now he was a lot more akin to the original Naruto that we get in the original story. A little more mature, obviously, but you know, that just comes with the title. Anyways though, with him returning back to the village, Tsunade would want to do a test as to see how much they've really grown, wanting not only to compare how much they've grown, but to also test her in comparison to her student, Sakura Haruno. And with the 3 of them preparing to take said test, all 3 of them would be given a solid 3-hour break where they could actually catch up for a bit. Sasuke speaking to Sakura, both of them kind of understanding that there's some clear connection there, and Naruto kind of just being like right in between them, being like, I knew this was gonna happen. As you know, eventually time passes, and we would now watch on as Kakashi would end up hosting both bells to his waist and telling them to begin. As soon as this test would start, Naruto would waste absolutely no time nodding to Sasuke, as Sakura immediately starting this battle off by doing the move they had asked her to do. She would slam her fist into the battlefield, creating a massive crater, all the while Sasuke and Naruto individually would activate their most powerful states, Sasuke tapping into the power of the Curse Mark Stage 2, as Naruto would immediately awaken KCM1, speed blitzing Kakashi from both sides as they would have ripped the bells out of Kakashi's waist, absolutely stunning him, who, having tracked them with the Sharingan, realized that no matter where he went, one of them was going to get the bells. So saving himself the effort, Kakashi just stood still, stunning Tsunade, who would say, Jiraiya, just what did you teach these boys? Him chuckling as he would say, what didn't I teach them? As, you know, finally all 3 of them would have a time to laugh, and they would say, look at that, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto would say, we took these bells in about 3 seconds. Kakashi saying that he expected nothing less, saying that he's proud of how much control he's gotten over the Nine Tails. Naruto saying that he could call him Kurama, as Kurama internally would kind of do like a slight growl, but he doesn't even do that often anymore, because at this point, they're just openly best friends. He even considers Sasuke a bit of a friend too at this point, because, you know, obviously they've been together, and definitely considers Jiraiya a friend after all this time. They definitely cooled the beef, and now Jiraiya and the Nine Tails are cool. So yeah, with that being said, the team would finally get back accustomed to the village, and they would get back into the groove of things with their first mission, being assigned a very simple mission where they have to bring a letter to the land of wind. But just before they would actually embark on said mission, Tsunade would stop them via an Anbu messenger, who would tell them that Tsunade has requested them back immediately, briefing them on the fact that the Akatsuki has targeted the Sand Village and has kidnapped the Kazekage Gaara. That name would instantly instantly trigger memories within Sasuke and Naruto, as both of them would immediately agree that they're gonna go and handle business. It's here that Kakashi would nod and the team would embark, going full throttle on their way to the Sand Village, arriving quickly as ever, as once entering the medical room to see the state Kankuro was in, Sakura would immediately get to work, using her healing prowess and medical ninjutsu to heal Kankuro from the poison, with some help by Lady Chiho. And when Kakashi would enter the room, the same mix-up that would happen in the original would take place, Lady Chiho attacking Kakashi and yelling out something about never forgiving him. But once everything would cool down and she would understand it wasn't him, she would calm down immediately, reverting back to your typical old lady. As Sakura would finally finish healing Kankuro, and with that being done, they would then make their way towards the last known location of the Akatsuki, using tracking ninjutsu that Kakashi would use thanks to his dog summons, as eventually they arrived to the mouth of the cave, Sakura charging up chakra in her fist as she would slam it into the rock, causing an explosion with Sasori and Kakazu, not Sasori and Kakazu, but Sasori and Deidara looking towards them. It's here that a bunch of bombs would drop in from the sky, as they would threaten to explode, as Deidara would cackle, saying that art is an explosion. But Sasuke had reacted fast enough to actually disarm them with a lightning jutsu, as he would tell them, "Is that your idea of some sort of trap?" Simply leaving Sasori to mutter, "Impressive." This is when a multitude of puppets would go flying towards their direction, with each of them being eliminated by KCM clones that would bombard out of Naruto, 18 of them to be exact, doubling the number of the puppets that would have flown at them, As Naruto would dismantle them, Sasori's eyes would widen. To control that much power of the Nine Tails, it's unheard of. All the while Deidara in this moment would find himself unable to look away from Sasuke, whose Sharingan and appearance had reminded him of Itachi. He would attempt to use a clay jutsu to fight him, but Sasuke, being the perfect counter to him, would engage in a fight with Deidara that would end even faster than the one that we get canonically, not even allowing things to escalate much further due to the fact that he would have Kakashi, Sakura, Naruto, and his clones there to help. Meaning that as Deidara would create some clay bombs in his mouth and throw them to the direction of Sasuke, Sasuke's wing would flap it away before his blade would be sent charged up with a Chidori, and it would pierce into the actual leg of Deidara, holding him still, who would substitute out of the way, replacing himself with one of his own clones that would explode. Naruto using the substitution jutsu as he would switch spots with one of his clones with Sasuke. And suddenly, before Deidara knew it, Sasuke had pierced his Chidori directly into the body of Deidara, who would turn around and go, ow, realizing that he had been placed under a genjutsu. Those eyes, those miserable eyes, they were his downfall. As blood would spurt out of his mouth, Deidara would fall to his knees, thinking, that was art. This is when Naruto and Sakura would both start tag teaming Sasori, who in an attempt to defy them by using his clones would be completely unable to, since Naruto at this point of the story was so damn fast that none of Sasori's clones could land. None of his attacks could even land on his clones. Clones of Naruto, that is. That said, Sasori would be taken care of, pinned to the ground, where Kakashi would have the perfect opportunity to question the Akatsuki. But before they could get a single answer out of Sasori, he would kill himself, leaving Lady Chiho to look away as they finally rushed to the direction of Gaara, helping him up, with Naruto wondering if Kurama's chakra could heal this, but Kurama's voice would tell him internally, there is no chakra in him. He's gone, Naruto. And with Naruto having a saddened expression, knowing all the pain that Gaara must have gone through just for being a Jinchuriki, just to die young like this, a tear would stream down his face, before then Lady Chiho, walking towards Gaara, would lay down her life in the ultimate act of love, reanimating Gaara, who would once been dead, as he would stand and open his blurry eyes to see the side of Sasuke and Naruto, immediately thanking the team, as returning the Kazekage back to the land of sand, they would receive a massive thank you, as a way better treated than they had before, with the leaf would be embarked, and we would basically just see the Team 7 return to the village, literally all smiles and giggles, because mind you, this time the threat of finding Sasuke and Orochimaru and all that stuff, it's non-existent, and we're instead able to see Team 7 taking a couple of day break between this mission, eventually returning back to a normal mission like schedule and going on a few assigned missions with other teams in the village. Very basic stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, just to take a quick pause in the video, I promise I won't be too long. I just want to let you guys know that I started a recent series on my second channel, linked down below in the description, where I'm pretty much going over the Gospels individually. Right now I'm reading John, but in a few couple of weeks I'm probably going to finish Mark, Luke, and Matthew. And it'd mean the absolute world to me if you guys would go check that out if you're a believer, or even if you're not, like you've never heard the gospel, you know Jesus died for your sins, but you don't actually know what he did, what miracles or what the actual stories about him are, then check them out. I mean, you like listening to my what ifs already, so it's basically just like listening to another story that otherwise you would not have listened to. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that really quickly, and let's get back into the video, which would unfortunately lead to the downfall of Jiraiya, because during the time that Team 7 would be off on separate missions, Jiraiya, in an effort to find more intel about Pain, would end up going to the land hidden in the rain, discovering that his old student Nagato and Konan were part of the Akatsuki, and ultimately dying, leaving one final note for both Naruto and Sasuke, knowing that each of them would be able to decipher this. So with each of them returning back from their mission and discovering the death of Jiraiya, it would hit them like a truck. More so Sasuke, because in his eyes, he would feel as though every single time that he learns to love someone, they just get ripped away from him. And it would have been from people of that same organization as Itachi. Those damn Akatsuki members, he would think. All the while Naruto, he wouldn't feel rage, but just overwhelming sadness, which ultimately leads to both of them undergoing the Sage training, that special training that Jiraiya promised he would take them on, but hadn't quite done so. They would meet the Elder Toad, and once there, they would be introduced to the concept of Sage training, each of them undergoing said training and learning it in the same time, if not faster, than Naruto would have in the original, due to the fact that each of them would be capable of using the Shadow Clone Jutsu, a technique that each of them would have discovered during the 3-year time skip to speed up the training, Sasuke being more exhausted than Naruto when taking longer to learn it, but with the end result still being the same, Naruto and Sasuke learning Sage mode. And once the two students would finally perfect the technique, they would return to Konoha, where arriving, they would be met with a destroyed village, with nothing but rubble, looking around to see that their home was gone, this serving to anger and piss off Sasuke to no ends, due to the fact that he felt as though he was reliving that night once again. And this would be the thing that would break the camel's back for Naruto. Naruto's eyes would start glowing red, as almost instantaneously, the power of the Nine Tails would empower Naruto, him staring at the direction of Pain, as Naruto immediately, without holding back, would charge up a tailed beast bomb straight from his mouth, blasting it at the direction of Pain, who would narrowly manage to evade the big blast, leaving a massive crater to be formed miles away, as Naruto, rushing in towards the direction of Pain, would start putting in the work, leaving Sasuke to create 2 shadow clones that would remain behind, charging up Sage energy, with him tapping into the power of the curse mark and having 2 wings appear behind him. This is when Sasuke, tapping into the power of the Onyx Chidori, he would channel that through his blade, as crying out, "Naruto!" Both of them would fly into the air, where Naruto would propel himself using his tails, flying to the direction of the Diva Path, who would send them back by using his Rinnegan ability, leaving each of them to immediately jump off of each other's feet as they would lunge to the direction of a different path of Pain. Sasuke flying at the Asura path as he would slice him into 7 individual pieces, and Naruto flying at the human path, where he would slam a Rasengan directly into its head, blowing it up. This is when Sasuke, finally having charged up Sage energy and prompting himself to use that power, he would tap into Sage Mode, immediately noticing an invisible chameleon in the distance, him crying out, "Naruto, you're 6!" as Naruto would dodge, and we would see Naruto creating a big bar Rasengan, throwing it at the invisible air, slamming the invisible chameleon meters away, with the animal path having shock in its face. Wait, I just realized, I said animal path, right? Bro, I mixed that up. I meant Preda path. Naruto killed the Preda path, and the animal path, obviously like I just said, is just kind of like staring on in shock. This would leave Pain to dragging both Naruto and Sasuke towards his direction, as the remaining other paths of Pain's would whip hand signs, launching an attack to the direction of both of them, leading Sasuke and Naruto to use the substitution jutsu, dodging out of the way immediately, as with their incredible speeds, the two would touch Earth, with Naruto sending 9 tails into the earth, picking it up from multiple different angles, all the while the paths would look around in confusion, and out from under them would sprout a multitude of Naruto clones, who would perform different duties, half being split in attacking, and the other half performing fire-style jutsu, sending them flying at the air, which would immediately cause the sky to change and Sasuke to smirk. This is when Sasuke would say, "Begone with the thunderclap," as suddenly a lightning dragon would come flying from the sky, and it would obliterate all but the Diva path, who's still standing, would suddenly be obliterated by a combination Chidori and Rasengan to each end of his torso, splitting him in half, as Naruto finally hitting the ground, not from exhaustion, but just from being drained mentally, he would start sobbing, with Sasuke looking at him and telling him to get up, that the job's not finished. Naruto not having noticed the fact that Nagato was still alive, but Sasuke did, because using Sage Mode, he would track them down, and immediately, Naruto getting up with just this look of his eyes of desperately craving revenge, they would lunge to the direction of Nagato, where arriving, they would discover a weak, shriveled, red-haired Uzumaki, who would be expecting them and waiting his death. This, however, is when Sasuke would extend a hand out, turning to Naruto, as through gritted teeth, he would tell Naruto to hold back, just seeing that murderous look in Naruto's eyes, an expression he had never seen before. Because in Naruto's psyche, the only thing that he could think about is the fact that every time something good happens, the world has to rip it away from him. But this was the last time, and he was gonna get revenge. An unusual, murderous Naruto would be standing in front of him, the aura of the Nine Tails menacingly glaring at Pain, all the while Sasuke would ask, "Why? Why did you feel the need to attack our village? Why did you feel the need to kill so many?" As a silent Nagato would finally answer, "Because this village needed to know pain," leaving Naruto to explode with an uproar of chakra, as Sasuke would place one hand on Naruto's shoulder, and Naruto would calm himself just long enough for Nagato to begin explaining. As he would do so, Konan would be to his left, waiting to try to protect him in case they would lunge at him, but it would never happen. As Naruto and Sasuke would listen to the story of Nagato, they would understand why he did it. Not agree, but understand. And learning that he was also a student of Jiraiya, Naruto would scream out, "Why? If he taught you how to use your Rinnegan, if he was the one who showed you how to be a man, why in the world would you kill him? He was the closest thing I had to a father, and I thought I had my entire life ahead of me with him. But you ripped that away from me, and then to top it all off, you destroyed my village, killed my friends, and injured my Kage. How am I expected to forgive him, Sasuke?" he would say, with Nagato telling him, "It would be fair for you to get revenge on me, wouldn't it? But what about my revenge?" he would say, causing Naruto to stop for a moment, giving him that speech later than he would have in the original, since during the fight that they just had, Naruto and Sasuke got busy, not even giving the Diva Paths a single chance to try to stop them. And as Naruto would finally calm himself, he would suddenly deactivate the power of the Nine Tails, walking closer to Nagato, and telling him that the only reason he won't kill him here and now is because he thinks a life of living as a shriveled up raisin will be far worse than death, leaving the area and leaving Sasuke to actually be the one to give Nagato the Talk no Jutsu, explaining to him that the old him would have killed him the second he saw him, saying that the old him might have even asked about the whereabouts of Itachi, caring too much about revenge, but this version of him has learned that revenge and hatred, it only hurts the person. Before then going on to give an even deeper speech than that, which honestly doesn't come to me at the moment, and leading to the ultimate revival via a rebirth of the entirety of the village. Naruto standing outside the hideout as he would ask Sasuke what that jutsu was that he just felt required everything from Nagato. Sasuke telling Naruto that it was the first steps towards a world of peace. Sasuke holding a container which would have the Rinnegan inside of him, as he and Naruto ultimately leave, Konan burying the body of Nagato without telling anybody of the fact that Sasuke had Nagato's Rinnegan now in his possession, with her disappearing in an attempt to take down Obito like she would in the original once he would come to retrieve his eyes. But in this timeline, due to Sasuke having been the one to be given those eyes, he would have them implanted into himself by Sakura herself, who would perform the medical procedure to a T, leaving Sasuke now to have an incredible power-up, skipping the entire tier of the Mangekyo and jumping straight into that of the Rinnegan, meaning that he wouldn't have access to the Susanoo or Amaterasu, but he is going to be having access to every other ability that came with the Rinnegan, so I feel like it's a bit of a fair trade-off. That said, with these events having been taken place in the village and I believe it's Konuragakure, I don't know, basically the land hidden in the clouds would have ended up having their Jinchuriki kidnapped by the Akatsuki, with Obito having been the one to personally take B in this timeline. Due to the fact that Sasuke wouldn't be going, this means that Obito himself would likely have to be the one to go, or we could have a world where Itachi and Kisame would go. And due to the fact that we saw how Itachi would actually perform against the likes of KCM1 Naruto and even Killer B, with the help of Kisame, I'd be willing to wager that they would actually win that fight, taking a lot out of Itachi and bringing him a couple more steps closer to the brink of death, leaving the rest of the villages to finally have their 5 Kage summit, where Danzo would be called upon as the temporary Kage. Meanwhile, Tsunade would be being healed. So with everything playing out the way that it would, Danzo with a smile would end up summoning both Naruto and Sasuke to his side as his personal guards, alongside a few other Anbu members. And once they would arrive to the Kage summit, much like clockwork, things would play out like you would expect, with the Raikage growing increasingly frustrated, pointing the finger at practically every other Kage than himself, as Obito would interrupt the party and declare war on the Shinobi Alliance, noting the eyes of Sasuke, as his eye would close slightly as he would think, so that's how it is, Nagato, before his eye would swirl away and everybody would be left with the realization that the next great war was about to start, Orochimaru being at the head of it all, since in this timeline he wouldn't have died, and both of them want the same thing, in Sasuke Uchiha. Granted, for different reasons, Orochimaru because he's looking for a new vessel, and Obito due to the fact that he needs those Rinnegan. And due to this, Obito would mobilize most of the Akatsuki alongside a variant of summons that he would have had via Orochimaru, as he would decide on one fell swoop on the Leaf Village, who, mind you, was barely picking up the pieces from the final fight that they had just had with Pain, meaning that this amalgamation of multiple shinobi would definitely catch them off guard, it including the likes of Hidan and Kakuzu, who still hadn't been taken out at this point in the story, alongside a reanimated Kisame and Itachi, Obito, a reanimated Konan, and an army of random living beings from the past. And once they would all arrive at the village, things would turn to absolute chaos, as everybody would go to fight their own battles, Kakashi facing the reanimated versions of Zabuza and Haku, Might Guy facing against the previous 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, tapping into the power of the 7th gate as he would begin bodying each of them individually, and Sasuke facing off against a reanimated Itachi, who, never having the opportunity to give a crow to Naruto, would mean that this would be a true battle to the death between the siblings, with neither brother holding things back for different reasons. Itachi because he was under the control of the reanimation jutsu, and Sasuke because he had something to prove. and as every single battle would begin, the fight would be electric, with all the remaining shinobi forces that are still alive and healed from the previous encounter rushing in to try to do something to the reanimated army, them being incapable of doing a thing. That is, until Naruto would provide backup via 500 shadow clones which would fill the arena, outnumbering the reanimations 10-1. And with these reanimated clones all rushing at the direction of Naruto, Naruto would be making clockwork out of most of them, until suddenly a multitude of different clones would pop, with the sound of a Rasengan echoing, as Naruto would see the hair and flow of Minato Namikaze. Naruto rushing in towards his direction, he would create a big ball Rasengan, clashing with Minato's own, with Minato flashing a smile at Naruto, proud of the man he would become, his body beginning to be eliminated by the Rasengan of Naruto as it would slowly begin to heal. And just as this would happen, a forced emergence jutsu from the first Hokage Hashirama would envelop the battlefield, as water would come out of the depths of Tobirama's being flooding the battlefield. This would lead Naruto to turning things up a notch, having finally captured just enough sage energy, tapping into a perfect sage mode, as Sasuke, using his sage mode simultaneously with Naruto, would begin overwhelming Itachi, wrecking him with the abilities that consist of the Rinnegan, pulling him towards the direction of his blade as placing a seal on Itachi's forehead. Sasuke would finally defeat the dead Itachi, who had actually died in an effort to save Sasuke from the destruction and devastation that Obito was trying to cause, having a love for the village still, and especially having a love for Sasuke, which ultimately would have led to the death of both Kisame and Itachi, seeing as an even weaker Itachi than the one that we get in the original would have faced off against Itachi, and the statement that Kisame made in one of the filler episodes of Naruto would ring true, that one day they would kill each other. And so with the battle escalating more and more, and Naruto's clones just making quick work of these reanimated clones, suddenly Naruto would feel a hand pierce through his stomach. Naruto looking up in shock at the fact that someone was fast enough to keep up with him. Because mind you, Naruto was using everything, Sage Mode, KCM, but still whoever this was managed to tag him. And as Naruto would leap back, healing his injury thanks to the power of Kurama, Naruto would question who this is, Obito remaining silent as he would continue using Kamui all throughout the battlefield, moving in unpredictable ways, all the while the voice of Kurama would ring out, saying that he's seen this man before, that 16 years ago, he was present at the attack of the Nine Tails, explaining that he was the one who placed him under his control and fought against his father Minato all that time ago. And as Naruto would hear this, he would question Kurama on how his father hit him. It's impossible. Everything he tried, every jutsu, every solid attack, every sage enhanced jutsu, it's going through him. But Kurama would simply tell him that he doesn't know. He was rampaging due to the orders that man had given him with a Sharingan. So as Naruto would sit there questioning on what his next move will be, saying that even though he knows he won't run out of chakra, he still might be landed a fatal attack on, Kurama would tell him that he needs to use all of the experiences he's had to this moment, with him smiling as he would finally calm his nerves, looking to Sasuke, who had just finished his battle with Itachi, as Naruto staring into the eyes of Sasuke could almost tell him 100 words, and both of them would nod. Naruto deciding that he's made it this far not because of his own strength, but because of the people along the way. First Kurama, then Kakashi, Sasuke, Jiraiya, and the rest. And now, it was gonna come full circle. Because in that moment, Naruto would have one more clash with Obito, betting it all on that Sasuke could help him outside, while Naruto can take care of the inside, having no way of escape but knowing that some way somehow, he'll figure it out, being warped into the Kamui dimension, leaving Obito to smile internally, thinking that now that he's out of the way, the rest should be easy, since he still considered Naruto to be the stronger, since he was faster than Sasuke after all, and more adept at fighting him. Sasuke should be easy. But what he didn't expect is that Sasuke and Naruto would work in perfect tandem combination, hitting each part of Obito that wouldn't phase because one part of him had to remain in Kamui and another part of him had to remain in the other dimension. and Naruto had one thing to his advantage: thousands of clones that would fill the dimension of Kamui and tag any weak spot that Obito would have, leaving him to be unable to use Kamui as Sasuke through a hard-fought battle would defeat Obito, or at least weaken him long enough for him to retrieve into the Kamui dimension, where he would be hit with a 1000 Rasengan barrage, obliterating every bit and piece of Obito, with Naruto being stuck in the Kamui dimension, just sitting down confident that some way somehow his friends will help him, attempting various things, reverse summoning out of there, using maybe some sort of random jutsu he'd create, but nothing. Naruto wasn't at all adept enough to use that, and so Naruto would remain in that dimension for a few hours. In fact, it almost felt like a day. As his stomach would grumble, Naruto would suddenly see a warp gate appear, and out from it would come Kakashi, who, having discovered who Obito was after the fact of the battle and having finally taken care of the reanimated soldiers, he would arrive to retrieve Naruto from this dimension. As Naruto would walk out and smile to every single person who helped, Naruto creating a massive clone jutsu as the village would be rebuilt in record time, it taking only about 2 months for every single building to be back and running, and Naruto to be granted the title of Hokage.